Chapter 110. Chu Luiyue paused. I don't know about this. The elder chuckled and waved his hand. It's normal that you didn't register. Every year, when new students enter the academy, they will be tested and registered together. But your situation is special, so it's normal that you don't have this. You can find some time to take the test later. Chu Luiyue then remembered that when the first few people placed their nameplates on the black jade stone, not only would their names be displayed, but it would also display their yuan meridian and cultivation level. But when she placed her nameplate on the stone, only her name was displayed. No, there was a number behind it. 19. Chu Luiyue looked at the number behind her name strangely. This is the time you have to cultivate in Joyo Tower. According to the results of the midterm assessment, every student will be allocated a different amount of time to cultivate. You came in second in the Xian Master assessment and first in the Warrior assessment, so you have exactly 38 hours in total. The elder was very patient and explained it to Chu Luiyue. After he finished speaking, Chu Luiyue clearly felt that many people around her looked at her again. Unlike the curiosity and reverence from before, Chu Luiyue felt more envy this time. Envy? Could it be because of these 38 hours? Chu Luiyue knew that there were conditions for entering Joyo Tower to cultivate, but now it seemed that it was more difficult than she had imagined. She had obtained such results in only 38 hours. It was easy to imagine how much time others had. Teacher, can I freely allocate these 38 hours? The elder smiled slyly. Of course it's not that simple. Although you have a lot of time, there's a limit to the amount of time you can cultivate every day. Most Xian masters and celestial physicians didn't care about this aspect of cultivation, so they rarely came to Joyo Tower to absorb force. Most of them were martial artists. After all, the force density in Joyo Tower was much higher than outside. If one could cultivate inside, their speed would increase by a lot. To any martial artist, this was an enormous temptation. And this time is naturally divided according to the martial artist's level. Rank 1 warriors spend 2 hours a day, rank 2 warriors spend 4 hours, and so on and so forth. The old man's eyes sparkled with excitement and curiosity as he stared at Chu Luiyue. I heard that you defeated Chu Xianmin previously. You should be a stage 3 warrior now, right? When Chu Luiyue heard him mention the martial artist rank, he knew something was wrong. She was not weak, but who would have thought that she had just broken through to become a stage 1 warrior? No matter how hard she tried, the thing in her dantian refused to add another line. Chu Luiyue couldn't do anything about it. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, Student. Rank 1 warrior. The Chu clan. First Elder, do you mean that you don't intend to give Minmin a dowry? Although Chu Yan and Lu Ya were unwilling to let their daughter marry into the crown prince's residence as a concubine, they had no other choice but to agree. 3 days was too rushed, so they could only prepare as much dowry as possible to make Chu Xianmin's life easier after she married into the crown prince's residence. However, they didn't expect to be stopped by the first elder. The first elder was expressionless. The crown prince's residence hasn't been earning much in recent years. Both of you know this best. Now that the date has been set in a hurry, there's no time to prepare so much dowry. Chu Yan suppressed his anger. Minmin is going to marry into the crown prince's residence. This represents the Chu family's face. If Minmin is looked down upon, it will embarrass the Chu family as well. It's not bad to marry into the crown prince's residence, but she's just a concubine. The first elder put down the teacup in his hand and looked at the two with a sullen face. If her dowry is too generous now, how will she live when the crown princess and secondary consort enter the residence? Instead of being in the limelight for a while, it's better to keep a low profile and avoid more trouble. These words made Chu Yan and Lu Yao speechless, but the anger in their hearts burned even brighter. Although the Chu family wasn't the same as before, it wasn't to the point where they couldn't even afford such a small amount of money. Moreover, Chu Xianmin was the Chu family's first daughter. Ever since she got close to the crown prince's residence had been secretly preparing the dowry. The first elder said there wasn't any because Chu Xianmin had lost her position as the crown princess, so he purposely treated her harshly and wanted to keep this sum of money. How could Chu Yan and Lu Yao agree? First elder, although Minmin can't marry into the crown prince's residence as the crown princess, it's hard to say what the future holds. If you insist on this, that's all in the future. Who can say for sure? Hearing this, the first elder interrupted him, but his heart was still shaken, so he said, "That's right. However, seeing that you only have one daughter, the crown prince's residence will give you 32 dowries." Lu Yao sneered in her heart. Are you trying to dismiss a beggar with this amount of money? The Chu family is so big, but giving out 32 dowries is embarrassing enough. The first elder seemed to have seen through her thoughts and added calmly, "Lu Yao, you've been serving the crown princess for a long time. I'm sure you've already saved up some dowries for Minmin. The crown prince's residence giving you this is already very benevolent. Don't you think so?" Lu Yao gritted her teeth. The first elder was threatening her with the matter of her pocketing the money. However, she didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. After all, her reputation would be ruined if word got out. However, she couldn't say anything about it. It was true that she took the money, but which of her daily necessities didn't cost money? Her family of 3 was used to luxury and liked to choose the best for everything. They didn't have much money left. Most importantly, Chu Xianmin spent hundreds of thousands of silver taels to buy things at Zhenbao Pavilion a month ago. She originally wanted to wait for Chu Xianmin to win first place in the academy and win the crown prince's favor before going to her parents' house to ask for the money. However, who knew that Chu Luyue would appear and mess up all her plans? The Lu family was now mocking and ridiculing them. Why would they give them a single cent? Zhenbao Pavilion was pressing her, and she didn't dare to offend this family. She could only take the money from her own pocket. How would she have the money for Chu Xianmin's wedding? However, the first elder's behavior made it clear that he wouldn't change his mind. If she continued, she would only be humiliating herself. Lu Yao resisted the urge to stand up. She glanced at Chu Yan, who still wanted to say something, and the two of them left with grievances. Tian Lu Academy, Jiuyou Tower. Chu Luyue ignored the various gazes around him and put the nameplate back on his left chest. He calmed himself down and looked forward. Jiuyou Tower had a total of 9 floors. It was made of black iron and was thick and majestic. Looking from the bottom, it looked like a sharp sword piercing through the clouds as if it could tear the sky apart at any time. Every floor had 8 corners that were raised up like eaves with bells hanging from them. When the wind blew, one could hear the crisp sound of the bells nearby. Chu Luyue had already walked in through the greenish-black bronze door. There was a strange carving above the door. It seemed to be an eagle. Its head was slightly lowered, and its eyes were tightly shut. A pair of huge wings were folded in front of its body, and it looked extremely majestic. The remaining karmic fire seemed to be crazily spreading and burning it. For some reason, Chu Luyue felt an inexplicable murderous aura with just one look. She covered up this strange feeling and reached out her hand to push the door open. At this moment, the eagle's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. Scarlet. Brutal. Terrifying. The piercing murderous intent went straight for Chu Luyue. Digression. It will be published tomorrow, and the editor will have to approve it. Hence, it will be published around noon. It will be more convenient for everyone to read it in the afternoon. Thank you for all your support. I will work hard in writing in February. Mwax. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 111. The next moment, a flame seemed to gather under the palm she placed on the door, burning wildly. In an instant, the flames seemed to have spread from her palm to her entire body. The scorching heat surrounded her in an instant. Every inch of her body felt as if it had been burned by a raging fire. Her internal organs felt as if they were being gripped tightly by something, and the pain pierced her heart. Chu Luiyue was shocked and furious. This flame was actually trying to kill her. She wanted to retreat, but she realized that she couldn't move at all. It was as if her entire body was being controlled. The flame had already rapidly burned through her limbs and bones, heading for her dantian. That biting cold and terrifying murderous intent made Chu Luiyue's hair stand on end. The dantian was the most important part of a cultivator. Once it was damaged, one would never be able to cultivate for the rest of their lives. This thing was actually here for this. However, just as the powerful force was about to enter her dantian, the water droplet that had been quietly floating in Chu Luiyue's dantian suddenly started spinning rapidly. Boom! An invisible suppressive force shot out from Chu Luiyue's body and went straight for him. Chu Luiyue could even clearly feel the two forces colliding fiercely, and the terrifying force spread throughout her body. At this moment, Chu Luiyue felt as if there was lava bursting in her body, and there wasn't a single part of her body that wasn't painful. Fortunately, the force that burst forth from the water droplet was extremely strong, and it almost destroyed the force that wanted to kill Chu Luiyue. Only then did the terrifying pain gradually dissipate. However, Chu Luiyue didn't dare to relax. Her eyes were fixed on the picture on the door. When she looked, she realized that the eagle's eyes were already closed. It was as if everything that had just happened had never happened. Chu Luiyue gradually clenched her fists tightly. No. That definitely wasn't an illusion. If not for the power of the water droplet, she would probably have been a dead person by now. She never would have thought that she would be on the brink of death before even entering Joyo Tower. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Seeing Chu Luiyue standing in front of the door without moving, the old man asked doubtfully. Chu Luiyue turned around to take a look. The old man and the people around him didn't seem to have noticed what had happened in that instant. Her mind raced as she shook her head. Nothing. After saying that, she didn't stay any longer and walked in. Joyo Tower had a total of 9 floors. The space inside was very spacious, and there were many partitioned rooms. The people who had come in earlier had already familiarized themselves with the place and were heading towards the rooms that they liked to cultivate in. Right in the middle was a spiral staircase, obviously leading to the top. Some people didn't stop at the first floor, but instead went straight up. In Joyo Tower, the higher the floor, the denser the force. However, each layer was separated by a barrier. Anyone who wanted to enter the higher floors to cultivate would have to pass through the barrier. And this depended on one's own ability. Generally, low-level students could only cultivate on the first floor. Chu Luiyue wasn't in a hurry to choose a room to cultivate in. Instead, she stood still and lowered her head to look at her palm. A charred mark could be clearly seen. She had placed her hand on the door just now. That terrifying flame had also entered her body through her palm. This burn mark was the best proof of what had just happened. But, why did this happen? There was clearly no problem for other students to enter Joyo Tower. Why did this happen to her alone? Why did that eagle suddenly open its eyes and have such a strong murderous intent towards her? Perhaps, that murderous intent wasn't directed at her, but at the water droplet in her dantian? Chu Luiyue furrowed her brows, but she didn't have an answer. Chu Luiyue, haven't you chosen a room yet? A voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Chu Luiyue turned around and saw an unfamiliar girl's face. That girl was pretty, and her almond-shaped eyes were extremely cute. She raised her hand and pointed to the side. Actually, there isn't much difference between the rooms on the first floor. You can just choose one to cultivate in. However, the names that appear on the door are signs that someone has already entered. You can just choose those that are empty. Chu Luyue nodded. Thank you. That girl grinned. What's there to thank me for? My name is Mu Hongyu. You can just call me Hongyu. Chu Luyue couldn't help but laugh. So this girl was a sociable person. She quite liked her character. However, she didn't know her, so why did she seem so friendly? Okay. You can call me Luyu then. Mu Hongyu sized up Chu Luyue curiously. You're really different from the rumors. Chu Luyue didn't need to ask to guess what those so-called rumors said about her, but she wasn't interested in asking. Others can't wait to avoid me. Why are you taking the initiative to help me? Mu Hongyu snorted. You taught Chu Xianmin a lesson, so I'm naturally on your side. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Chu Luyue was amused. She felt that this girl was purposely helping her because she had a grudge against Chu Xianmin. However, she also agreed with what she said. I'm not talking to you anymore. I still have to go up and cultivate. After Mu Hongyu finished speaking, she simply turned around and walked upstairs. Chu Luyue originally wanted to go up, but she hesitated when she thought of what had just happened. She still chose to stay on the first floor. Chu Luyue roughly looked around and realized that the layout of every room was almost the same. In the end, she chose a very secluded spot and went in. After closing the door and isolating herself from all kinds of gazes, Chu Luyue sat cross-legged on the stone platform in the room. She wasn't in a hurry to cultivate. Instead, she looked at the burn mark on her palm again. However, it still seemed to hurt slightly. Chu Luyue fell into deep thought. Jiuyou Tower was the most important place in Tianlu Academy. It was also the foundation of the academy. If anything happened, the teachers in the academy would definitely not sit back and do nothing. However, that elder was so close to her just now, but he didn't seem to have noticed anything. Chu Luyue couldn't guarantee that no one else knew about this, but the most important thing now was to figure out why Jiuyou Tower was targeting her. Or rather, it was targeting the water droplet in her body. Where exactly did you come from? How did you get into so much trouble? Chu Luyue asked in her heart. However, the water droplet didn't move. It's my first time here, so it's scary but not dangerous. However, this won't happen again in the future, right? Chu Luyue's eyelids twitched. If this happens every day, I don't need to come to Jiuyou Tower anymore. Isn't it troublesome enough? This time, the water droplet trembled slightly, and a line of words finally appeared. What's there to fear from a mere evil creature? Evil creature. Chu Luyue was stunned for a while, and a chill rose from the bottom of her feet. You mean that there's a fiend in Jiuyou Tower? How is this possible? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 112. Below Jiuyou Tower was a pit of heavenly origins. It was because of this that the heaven and earth force in the tower was so abundant. To cultivators, this was a good place to quickly improve their cultivation. But to fiends, it was the opposite. The pit of heavenly origins was a natural force treasure trove. It contained rich heaven and earth force, but it was also mixed with many impurities. If one absorbed too much, it would cause harm to the cultivator's body. If it was light, it would damage one's yuan meridian, and if it was heavy, it would cause death. Cultivators could use all kinds of methods to expel these impurities, but fiends could not. Moreover, fiends were mostly cruel and vicious, so the pit of heavenly origins had a greater impact on them. If they stayed for too long, they would easily lose their minds and eventually go berserk. They might even explode and die. Jiuyou Tower was built above the pit of heavenly origins. How could there be fiends here? The words on the water droplet dissipated quickly. It had no intention of explaining. Chu Luiyue frowned. Although this statement was absurd, she inexplicably believed it in her heart. When the eagle opened its eyes, she was very sure that it was the aura of a fiend. But, why did the academy do this? Whether it was to the fiends or the students cultivating in the tower, this was a great hidden danger. And as the dean, did Master know about this? Prince Li's mansion. Seeing that his master had finally returned, Umo hurriedly went to welcome him. Master, you're back. Rongxiu nodded, looking relaxed. Umo saw the faint smile at the corner of his mouth and was surprised. As long as he stayed with that person for a period of time, his master's mood would always improve. He really had to give it to him. Looks like Master had a good night's rest. Rongxiu raised his eyebrows. Was the mansion still lively yesterday? Umo bowed. Yes, the other party sent another group of people. They wanted to break into your bedroom to find out what was going on, but we took them down. Still suicide soldiers? Yes, they were the same as the people who came 2 days ago. They didn't care about their lives. Seeing that they couldn't break in, they wanted to commit suicide by taking poison. However, one of them didn't die and is now locked up. Yan Qing interrogated him all night and used a lot of tricks. Finally, that person spat out something. Rongxiu stopped in his tracks. Oh. Umo lowered his voice. It's the Crown Prince's men. Rongxiu smiled. After so many years, it's still the same trick. He's not tired, but I'm tired. Umo asked hesitantly. Master, what do you think of this person? Is Third Imperial brother still in the Imperial capital? Rongxiu suddenly asked. Yes. His Majesty said that His Highness, the Third Prince, had been fighting at the border for many years and had suffered a lot. Now that there is no war and the Third Prince has reached the age to marry and have children, His Majesty's intention is to let the Third Prince stay in the Imperial capital. Rongxiu chuckled. Rongjiu had made great contributions in the Northwest Army, and his reputation was at its peak. How could father be at ease and let him go back? Staying in the Imperial capital was the safest option. I've been back for a long time, but I haven't visited Third Imperial brother. Tell Yan Qing to bring him along. I'll give Third Imperial brother a big gift. Yes. Rongjiu joined the army at a young age and was always outside. In the past, he would only stay in the palace for a few days before leaving. However, when he came back this time, Emperor Jiawen said that he was old enough to stay in the palace. Hence, he specially prepared a mansion for him outside the palace. The size of this mansion was actually similar to Rongxiu's princely mansion. However, the decree to confer him a prince had not been passed down. Rongjiu originally had some hope, but after waiting day after day, Emperor Jiawen repeatedly refused to let him go back. Hence, he understood what was going on. Conferring him a prince was a small matter, trapping him in the imperial capital was a big matter. The Northwest Army kept inviting him back, but Rongjiu knew that it would be difficult this time. After thinking this through, he calmed down and continued to stay in the imperial capital as if he didn't notice the emperor's fear at all. In the backyard, Rongjiu and Rongfeng were sparring. The two of them exchanged blows with each other. Rongfeng was quite talented, and he had been diligently cultivating with the teachers in the palace. He was only 15 years old, but he was already a stage 3 warrior. However, compared to Rongjiu, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, he was still inexperienced. After 10 rounds, Rongjiu found an opportunity to stab Rongfeng with his spear and easily sent Rongfeng's sword flying. Rongfeng looked at the sword that fell to the ground and smiled bitterly. Third brother, can't you go easy on me? It's so boring every time. Rongjiu twirled his spear. Who would go easy on you on the battlefield? Rong Feng was speechless, but he immediately shrugged and smiled proudly. I know you're doing this for my own good, third brother. Those people in the palace tiptoe around me every time I fight. It's so annoying. Rong Zhou's lips twitched. Then, why don't you go to Tianlu Academy? The teachers there won't be like this. The crown prince is there. I don't want to go. Rong Feng rolled his eyes. I've been compared to him since I was young. Isn't it annoying? Upon hearing this, Rong Zhou looked at him fixedly. So, you've been hiding your abilities and pretending that you're not as good as him. Who dares to be more outstanding than the crown prince? Isn't that finding trouble for myself? I'm not that bored. Rong Feng threw himself onto the rattan chair at the side. Didn't you see that seventh brother hasn't returned to the Imperial city for 10 years? Just because he was conferred the title of prince, he got himself into so much trouble. Third brother, I think you're a thorn in his side even in the Imperial city. Rong Zhou was about to speak when he suddenly saw his trusted aide walking over quickly. Third prince, someone from Princely Mansion said that Princely has a gift for you. It's already outside the door. Gift? Bring it in. Rong Feng followed closely behind, looking curious. Third brother, what gift did seventh brother give you? Isn't your birthday still early? Rong Zhou didn't say anything, but he was thinking in his heart. Very quickly, a wooden box was carried in. Rong Zhou narrowed his eyes, turned his wrist, and stabbed his spear out. The wooden box opened. A thick smell of blood assaulted his nostrils. Inside the wooden box was a person covered in wounds and blood. His entire body was twisted into a strange position and stuffed into the wooden box. Just one look was enough to make one shiver. Rong Feng gasped. He had never seen such a scene before. His expression changed drastically, and he started retching. Rong Zhou looked at him and frowned. Third brother. This is a dead person. Rong Feng said with difficulty. Why did seventh brother give you this? The person beside him reminded him, His Highness isn't dead yet. Your Highness, this person is not dead yet. He just fainted from excessive blood loss. Rong Zhou stepped forward. Third brother, don't go over. Rong Zhou flicked his spear, and something flew out. It was a small seal. Rong Zhou picked up the seal and looked at it carefully. His expression changed slightly. He thought for a moment. Lock this person up and keep him alive. We can't let him die. Then, he turned around and left. Upon seeing this, Rong Feng hurriedly followed. Third brother, where are you going? Rong Zhou didn't look back. Since Rong Xiu had given him such a big gift, he naturally had to accept it. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 113. 3 days passed quickly, and it was Chu Liuyue's wedding day in the blink of an eye. However, other than her own residence that was slightly decorated, the rest of the Chu family did not have the slightest bit of festive spirit. In the past, when the residents held a wedding, the servants would fight to be the first to do the work. On one hand, they wanted to leave a good impression in front of their masters, and on the other hand, they wanted to get more money. However, Chu Xianmin's courtyard was cold and cheerless. Only a few servants, who usually served her here, were busy with work. If not for the fact that they could not avoid it, they would not have come. The entire residence knew that although Chu Xianmin was marrying into the Crown Prince Mansion, she was only marrying into the Crown Prince Mansion as a concubine. It was not presentable. Because of this, the first elder did not even prepare any dowry for her. It was obvious that this wedding was not a joyous occasion. A few servants discussed softly as they packed up. With third Missy's status, I thought she would marry into the Crown Prince consort. I didn't expect her to be a concubine. Where is our Chu family's face? That's right. The Chu family's life has not been good these few years. Now that the first Missy is marrying into the Crown Prince Consort's life, we are a joke for no reason. Third Missy used to be so glamorous, but many people are laughing at her now. Who can be blamed for that? Third Missy's face is disfigured, and she has to wear a veil wherever she goes. Besides, her reputation is long gone. Even if she is willing to marry, no one will want her. Where can she go other than the Crown Prince mansion? Sure. She's coming out. The door was pushed open, and Chu Xianmin walked out with the help of someone. The servants in the courtyard immediately stopped talking, but their eyes kept sizing her up. She was wearing a red wedding dress and a veil, but she did not wear a phoenix coronet. She only wore a golden jade hairpin from the Crown Prince mansion. It was not that she did not want to dress up, but the rules were as such. Only the first wife had the right to wear a phoenix coronet. For someone like her who entered the Crown Prince mansion as a concubine, she had to dress simply. Chu Xianmin walked out of the room, and the courtyard was cold and empty. Other than her original servants, there was no one else who came to celebrate. It's good that they didn't come. Wasn't he just making fun of her by coming at this time? Chu Xianmin clenched her teeth and dug her nails deep into her palms to suppress the anger and indignation in her heart. It's so quiet. Is the Crown Prince not here yet? Why didn't I hear any gongs or drums? Asked Chu Xianmin as she suppressed her anger. Those people in the Crown Prince's residence were really something. In the past, they used to curry favor with her. Now that she was in dire straits, they even dared to neglect her wedding. Everyone looked at each other. Lu Yao stood at the side with a stiff expression on her face. She had actually forgotten to tell Min Min that the Crown Prince did not need to personally come over to welcome this marriage. At this moment, someone walked over quickly. Isn't it already packed? Why aren't you leaving yet? The sedan chair is already waiting outside. Third Miss Chu, please come in. This man looked familiar to Chu Xianmin. He was just a normal guard in the Crown Prince mansion. He used to bow and scrape when he saw her, but he dared to speak with a straight back in front of her now. But that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was, what do you mean? The Crown Prince is not coming. Chu Xianmin widened her eyes. Lu Yao pulled her and whispered, Min Min, don't worry. According to the rules, there's nothing wrong with this. Chu Xianmin finally recovered her senses. The Crown Prince would not even come to her so-called wedding. He would just send someone over casually. That guard smiled with a hint of mockery on his face. Third Miss Chu, His Highness is busy with work. How can he have the time for such a small matter? Small matter. He actually said that the most important thing in a woman's life was a small matter. Chu Xianmin had fantasized about marrying into the Crown Prince mansion countless times. It should be colorful and grand. It should not be as simple and disgusting as it was now. It was only at this moment that she realized that she was a concubine. Chu Xianmin did not know how she suppressed the surging emotions in her heart. She also did not know how she walked to the sedan chair outside the door. Only when she reached the Crown Prince mansion's door did she finally recover her senses. She lifted the curtain at the side and looked outside. The Crown Prince mansion's door was tightly shut. It did not look like a wedding was going to be held. Yes. She could only enter through the small door. A strong sense of humiliation welled up in her heart. Chu Xianmin was born to be favored by the heavens. She had been the object of envy for so many years. When had she ever been so lowly? Her hatred for Chu Luyue increased by another level. The servant brought her to a yard in the backyard of the Crown Prince mansion. Tingfeng Garden will be your residence in the future. The Crown Prince has something important to do today, so he won't be able to come. You can wait here for now. After saying this, the person who brought her here turned around and left. Chu Xianmin took a look and saw a few servants and page boys standing outside. They must have been sent to serve her. She was extremely aggrieved at this point, so she could not care about them. There was only one way left for her now. No matter what, she had to win the crown prince's favor. Chu Xianmin waited for an entire day. It wasn't until night fell that the courtyard suddenly became lively. Greetings, Your Highness. Hearing this voice, Chu Xianmin hurriedly stood up to welcome him. Rong Jin had already pushed the door open and entered. Your Highness, you're finally here. After the previous incident, Rong Jin disliked Chu Xianmin. Now that he was forced to marry her under his father's pressure, he did not even want to see her face. Hence, he was busy the entire day and only came at night. As soon as he entered, he saw a familiar figure. Chu Xianmin was wearing a red wedding dress and stood there prettily. The warm and dim candlelight in the room enveloped her in a layer of hazy light, which added a rare charm to her. Even though she was not dressed to the nines today, the cut of the wedding dress was appropriate, outlining her exquisite and slender figure. Her slender waist could be held with one arm. Rong Jin looked at her and squinted his eyes. Chu Xianmin was indeed beautiful without mentioning anything else. The red veil covered her face, revealing only a pair of timid and sparkling eyes. They were especially seductive. Rong Jin walked toward her, and his voice became much gentler. There were too many things today, and I couldn't get away. That's why I'm late. Minmin, you won't blame me, right? Why would I? Your Highness's matters are the most important. I'm already very happy that you still care about me, said Chu Xianmin with a smile, but her eyes were filled with tears, making her look pitiful. This time, Rong Jin's heart ached even more. He gently touched her shoulder with one hand and was a little tempted. As he spoke, he wanted to pull her veil. Minmin, Chu Xianmin did not expect him to be so direct. She immediately wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Rong Jin had already seen the scarlet and scary scar on her face. Your face. As if he had seen something terrifying, he quickly retreated, and the ambiguity just now disappeared in an instant. Chu Xianmin seemed to have been slapped harshly. When she hurriedly put on the veil and wanted to explain herself, Song Yuan's anxious voice suddenly came from outside. Your Highness. Her Majesty urgently summons you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 114. Upon hearing this, Rong Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Why, you should rest today. I'll come and see you another day. Then, without waiting for Chu Xianmin's reply, he turned around and left quickly. Your Highness. Chu Xianmin was flustered and instinctively wanted to follow him to explain. However, Rong Jin suddenly turned around and frowned. Oh right, don't go out and show your face if you have nothing to do. You can still go to the academy, but your face. You should wear your veil. Then, he hurriedly left as if there was a ferocious beast chasing after him. Once he thought of that frightening face, he felt his stomach churn. To think that I actually thought she was beautiful just now. How disgusting. Rong Jin's figure quickly disappeared, and only Chu Xianmin was left in the room. She stood there in a daze and laughed softly after a long time. However, there was only coldness and hatred left in her laughter. It's already so late. Why did father suddenly summon me? What happened? Rong Jin asked Song Yuan as he walked out of Ting Feng Garden quickly. Your Highness, I don't know either. Eunuch Min came personally. It seems like it's urgent. As he spoke, Rong Jin looked up and indeed saw Eunuch Min's figure. He was even more confused. What exactly happened that made Eunuch Min come so late? Eunuch Min anxiously paced back and forth. When he saw Rongjin from afar, he immediately went forward. "Io, Your Highness, you're finally out. His Majesty is waiting for you. Let's go quickly." Rongjin knitted his brows. "Why the rush?" "Eunuch Min, what exactly happened?" "Your Highness, I don't know about this either. It's just that the third prince went to the palace in the afternoon and talked to His Majesty in the Imperial study for a long time. After the third prince left, His Majesty ordered you to quickly enter the palace." Eunuch Min hesitated and touched the horsetail whisk in his arms. "This. Your Highness, there's something I need to tell you. His Majesty is in a fit of anger right now. When you arrive, you must be careful." "Angry?" Rongjin knitted his brows even tighter. "Is it related to Rongzhou?" However, I didn't have much contact with Rongzhou during this period. "Why is it related to him?" "Thank you, Eunuch Min." Rongjin did not ask further and entered the palace with Eunuch Min. The midsummer night was especially hot. Rongjin was drenched in sweat when he rushed to the Imperial study. However, when he entered and saw his father's cold expression, his heart instantly turned cold. "Imperial father." Emperor Zhaoan suddenly raised his hand and threw the inkstone on the table at Rongjin. Rongjin didn't dare to dodge and took it head-on. A wound immediately appeared on his forehead, and blood gushed out. He knew something was wrong and immediately knelt down. "Imperial father, if you want to teach this son a lesson, this son will accept it. But can you tell me why exactly? Don't you know what you've done?" Emperor Zhaoan rudely interrupted him, and his face turned green. This was Rongjin's first time seeing him like this, and his heart kept sinking. What was going on? "Rongjin, you're already the crown prince. Why are you still doing this to your brothers? Are you really that intolerant of others?" Emperor Zhaoan hollered. Rongjin suddenly recovered his senses and was shocked. Could it be that Imperial father knows that I sent someone to investigate Rongzhou? I know that Rongzhou has many military achievements and can go against you. You don't like him. But he's your brother after all, and you're already the crown prince. How can you still be so narrow-minded? Rongjin was dazed. "Rongzhou. That's not right. The people I sent were clearly, Imperial father, I didn't, you still dare to deny it. Your men have already been detained by Rongzhou." Rongjin's remaining words were stuck in his throat, and he couldn't say them. If it weren't for the fact that he's been in the military for many years and is alert enough, I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Emperor Zhaoan sighed heavily. "You disappoint me too much." Rongjin felt as if he was struck by lightning, and his heart was in turmoil. "That's not right. My men went for Rongzhou and didn't do anything to Rongzhou. There must be a problem here." He was indeed afraid of Rongzhou, but he didn't even want to do anything. This was because he clearly knew that Rongzhou's military achievements overshadowed the emperor's, and his father had long had this thought. His father made him stay in the imperial city for so long because he wanted to weaken Rongzhou's control over the Northwest Army. "I can just sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Why would I find trouble for no reason?" Could it be that Rongzhou and Rongzhou teamed up? Thinking of this, Rongjin's face was especially ugly. In Emperor Zhaoan's eyes, this change in expression naturally meant that Rongjin admitted to it. Brothers killing each other. You've really grown up. Rongjin couldn't refute or say a single word. Since Rongzhou dared to come here to complain, he must have solid evidence. If he denied it and continued investigating, it would only bring him trouble. Besides, he couldn't say that he originally went for Rongzhou. The consequences would be even worse. After much thought, Rongjin could only clench his teeth and admit it. "I know my mistake. I just wanted to test Rongjo's abilities, and I didn't have any murderous intentions. Father, please understand. However, I was rash and made a big mistake. Father, please punish me. Emperor Jiawen stared at him solemnly. Cultivation time always passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Chu Luiyue had already stayed in the academy for 5 days. In these few days, she gradually understood the various classes in the academy and started to get used to life in the academy. Actually, most of the students chose their own classes, and the teachers wouldn't force them. In addition, Chu Luiyue cultivated a few classes, so she had more freedom when it came to time. Other than going to Joyo Tower to cultivate for 2 hours every day and occasionally attending a few classes, Chu Luiyue spent most of her time cultivating in her own residence. After the first day, such a situation didn't happen in Joyo Tower again. However, Chu Luiyue still felt that there was a pair of eyes secretly staring at her. After serious consideration, she didn't ask Elder Yi about this matter. She felt that this had something to do with the mysterious water droplet in her body. However, Rongxiu didn't come again. Chu Luiyue finally returned to her bed to rest, but she could still smell the faint fragrance of peach blossoms, which made her think of this person from time to time. Chu Luiyue originally wanted to move next door, but when she thought of how she always seemed to sleep exceptionally well with this faint aura around, she could only give up on the idea. On this day, Chu Luiyue entered Joyo Tower to cultivate as usual and left after 2 hours. When she came out, she coincidentally bumped into Mu Hongyu. Chu Luiyue nodded and greeted her, but she didn't expect Mu Hongyu to follow her. I heard that you come here to cultivate every day. Chu Luiyue chuckled. You always hear a lot of news. Really? You're so extravagant. Mu Hongyu gasped, and she couldn't hide the envy in her eyes. That's true. You have 38 hours. Even if you come here every day, you can last for more than half a month. Unlike me, who works so hard to earn 4 hours, and I have to use it sparingly. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. How do you earn this time? You don't know. That's true. You just came to the academy, so you naturally don't know much about this. There are many ways to earn time for cultivation. I'll tell you slowly in the future. However, I have to ask you something first. The demonic beast tide is coming. Who are you in the same group as? Chapter 115. Fiend Title. Chu Luiyue was confused. You don't know about this? Every year at the end of August, there will be a fiend title in Wanling Mountain. Countless fiends will fight to go there, and many of them are mid-stage fiends. If you're lucky, there will be high-level fiends. This is a great opportunity to hunt fiends, so the elders from the academy will lead the team there every year. The students are free to form teams. After entering Wanling Mountain, everyone will move in groups. The level of fiends you can hunt will depend on your own abilities. Mu Hongyu explained. Chu Luiyue suddenly understood. The original owners seemed to have a vague impression of this because the crown prince, Rong Jin, personally hunted a 4th-grade fiend, a red-eyed fire leopard, during the fiend title a year ago. When this matter spread, Rong Jin was in the limelight for a while. Everyone knew that the crown prince was very powerful and could even hunt such a ferocious beast personally. One had to know that 1st-grade to 3rd-grade fiends were considered low-level fiends. 4th-grade to 6th-grade fiends were intermediate-level fiends. As for the legendary 9th-grade fiends, they were considered high-level fiends that only existed in rumors. Even though a 4th-grade fiend was only 1 grade higher than a 3rd-grade fiend, the difference was like night and day. However, Chu Luiyue had been busy cultivating these few days, so she did not pay much attention to this matter. Mu Hongyu told her this. You want to team up with me? Asked Chu Luiyue. Yes. Mu Hongyu didn't hide anything and nodded graciously. You're the top warrior and a Xian master. You're considered one of the most capable students in our batch. Who else can I look for but you? But don't worry, I won't drag you down. I should be able to break through and become a stage 4 warrior in half a month. Chu Luiyue was not worried about this. During the previous midterm assessment, Mu Hongyu lost to Gu Mingfeng and came in 3rd place. With this kind of ability, she was definitely considered an expert. Sure, let's move together then. Mu Hongyu invited him so warmly that he had no reason to refuse. The fact that Chu Luiyue agreed so readily surprised Mu Hongyu. You really agreed? That's right. What's wrong with that? That's not it. It's just that, those Xian masters have always looked down on us martial artists. We also don't like them, so we rarely team up with them. You're considered a member of the Xian cultivator team now. Won't they criticize you if you team up with me like this? Mu Hongyu asked hesitantly. Chu Luiyue could not help but laugh. This kind of struggle was really childish. In a world where strength reigns supreme, why would they care about such things? It's fine. Mu Hongyu smiled when she saw how confident she was. Her almond-shaped eyes were bright and dazzling. Good. It's settled then. Hey, if you have other people who want to team up with you, you can also pull them over. 5 people in a group, we still need 3 more people. Chu Luiyue thought for a moment. It's up to you. She was not very familiar with these people, so she might as well leave it to Mu Hongyu. When Mu Hongyu heard this, she immediately felt that Chu Luiyue trusted her a lot and had a better impression of her. Okay. There was a meditation class in the afternoon. When Chu Luiyue went over, she saw Gu Mingzhu standing outside the door. Seeing her walk over, Gu Mingzhu's expression instantly darkened. Chu Luiyue walked over unhurriedly. Second Miss Gu, did you bring those 2 Xian formation diagrams today? Gu Mingzhu's expression turned even uglier. She took out 2 Xian formation diagrams from her sleeves and threw them at Chu Luiyue. Isn't it just Xian formation diagrams? What's there to rush? I'll give them to you. Chu Luiyue caught the items lightly and opened them to take a look. After confirming that they were level 5 Xian formation diagrams, she curled her lips and said with a smile, Second Miss Gu also said that now that I've left the Chu family, my status is indeed not that high. 2 level 5 Xian formation diagrams are very precious, so I naturally value them. Unlike Second Miss Gu, who can easily take out this thing as a wager. Gu Mingzhu was so angry that her face turned pale. She did not dare to tell the patriarch about this. Even if she was very favored in the Gu family, the patriarch would definitely not forgive her if he knew. However, Chu Luiyue urged her every day when she saw her and even said that if she did not give them to her, she would personally go to the Gu family to ask for them. How could Gu Mingzhu allow her to torment her like this? She could only privately beg her mother to give them to her. Because of this, she was even severely reprimanded. Now that she saw Chu Luiyue smiling so happily, she felt so sullen in her heart that she wanted to die. Chu Luiyue, I'll remember you this time. You better pray that you don't fall into my hands in the future. Otherwise, you'll suffer. Chu Luiyue waved the Xian formation diagrams in her hand. Thank you for your concern, Second Miss Gu. If you have any more good gifts, Liu will be very grateful. Gu Mingzhu was so angry that she almost died. Due to the fact that class was about to start and there were more and more people coming, she could only temporarily suppress her anger. She glared fiercely at Chu Luiyue and turned to enter the room. Chu Luiyue did not care and followed her in. Everyone in the room was in groups of 3 to 5 and seemed to be discussing something. Chu Luiyue had just sat down in her seat when she saw Si Yang waving at her. Hey, Death Change, Chu Luiyue. Why don't you team up with us for the Devil Beast Tide? So everyone was talking about this. Chu Luiyue shook her head. I've already agreed to team up with someone else. Thank you for your kindness. What? Someone already made a move first. Who is it? Si Yang was unhappy when he heard this. Mu Hongyu. Si Yang was stunned for a moment and bitterly lamented. Mu Hongyu. That Chao Tianjiao. Are you kidding me? You, me, and my brother will be the top 3 Xian masters. We'll definitely be invincible. Why are you with her? Also, she's a warrior. I'm a warrior too. Chu Luiyue glanced at him. Is there a rule that says warriors and Xian masters can't team up together? Si Yang was speechless. No, but everything was planned well, but why was Mu Hongyu so fast? We've already gathered 4 people, and you're the only one left. If you don't come, what are we going to do? Chu Luiyue shook her head inwardly when she heard this. If it was just Si Yang and Si Ting, she could discuss it with Mu Hongyu. But it would be troublesome if there were 4 people. Also, she did not want to have too much contact with Si Ting, so this was good. I promised Mu Hongyu that I can't go back on my word. Sorry. Chu Luiyue took out the chessboard after she finished speaking. It was obvious that she had no intention of continuing the conversation. Si Yang glanced at Si Ting dejectedly. Si Ting's expression did not change. If that's the case, let's find someone else. Si Yang sighed inwardly. He could tell that his brother was interested in Chu Luiyue. He wanted to use the magical beast tie to give his brother a chance. Unfortunately, Si Ting, can I join you guys? I haven't teamed up with anyone yet. Gu Mingzhu had been listening to their conversation. Seeing this opportunity, she immediately spoke up and looked at Si Ting hopefully. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 116. Si Yang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. No. With Gu Mingzhu's temper, it would be very troublesome to team up with her. Moreover, couldn't she tell that big brother was not interested in her at all? Gu Mingzhu felt her face burning after being rejected so directly in front of everyone. She looked at Si Ting pitifully, but Si Ting did not even look at her. His expression was indifferent as if he did not care at all. Gu Mingzhu felt even more upset. She felt a fire surging in her chest, burning her whole body. She bit her lower lip and suppressed her urge to fly into a rage. However, his jealousy and hatred toward Chu Luiyue increased by another level. Why did they take the initiative to invite Chu Luiyue, but she was rejected when she took the initiative to invite him? Chu Luiyue threw away the things that he wished for like a pair of worn-out shoes. She did not believe that Chu Luiyue could continue to be so smug. Dong Fangqing quickly walked in. The discussions in the room immediately became much quieter. Dong Fangqing chuckled as he looked at everyone. It seems like all of you are looking forward to the Fiend Tide. There is still half a month to go, and you are already itching to take action. Teacher Dongfang, it is rumored that high-level fiends will appear during the Fiend Tide. Is that true? A student asked curiously. Dong Fangqing stroked his beard. During the Fiend Tide, hundreds and thousands of fiends will gather at Wanling Mountain. If you are lucky, you can indeed see a high-level fiend. The moment he said that, many students' eyes lit up. They could not hide the excitement in their eyes. If cultivators can successfully hunt fiends, it will undoubtedly increase their combat power greatly. The higher the level of the fiend, the greater the help. Especially for Xian masters like us, whose physical strength is slightly weaker, if we have a fiend, we will not have to worry. Xian masters had a higher status than warriors, but they also had a weakness. They were not good at close combat. Especially when setting up Xian formations, they needed time and energy. At this time, if they had a fiend's help, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. Therefore, compared to martial artists, mystic cultivators were more interested in fiend beasts. Some of you already have your own fiends, but most of you do not. You can take this opportunity to find a suitable one. If you have magical beasts, you can also give it a try. Teacher Dongfang, can't a cultivator only have one magical beast? Not bad. Magic beasts were ruthless, but they were also proud. They would never serve the same master. If you want to hunt new magical beasts, you have to release or kill the previous magical beasts. However, once a magical beast recognized a human as its master, its body would be tainted with the scent of the human. Even if it returned, it would be rejected by its own kind. Therefore, in most cases, once a magical beast is abandoned by its master, only death awaits it. Everyone nodded in understanding. Even though this magical beast is ferocious, it seems to have some pride, Dongfang Qing sighed. Yes. Once a magical beast recognized a master, it would be forever loyal, living and dying with its master. Therefore, when the time comes for you to hunt magical beasts, you must be extremely cautious and choose carefully. The students were all very excited. Yes. Chu Luiyue looked at the chessboard in front of him and suddenly stopped. Live and die together with master, so, after she died, all right, take advantage of these 10 days to cultivate diligently. You will only be able to hunt higher-level magical beasts when your strength increases. Today's test is on the water formation. Dongfang Qing waved his hand and the chess pieces flew out, forming a new pattern on the chessboard. Chu Luiyue lowered his eyes and collected his thoughts. During this lesson, Chu Luiyue was a little absent-minded. Even though his eyes were fixed on the chessboard, many scenes kept appearing in his mind. In her previous life, as the Heavenly Princess, she naturally had her own magical beast. However, when she died, it happened to be on the verge of a breakthrough and fell into a deep slumber. At that time, she was betrayed and was in a desperate situation, so she could only choose to leave. However, before she took action, she had already placed it in place. She didn't know what the situation was like after that. Country Yaoqin was extremely far away from the Tianling dynasty. Given her current status and strength, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for her to obtain any information, let alone return. She was afraid that she could only wait for the so-called envoy to come and find out the truth. Chu Luiyue, haven't you solved it yet? More than 2 hours later, Xiyang solved the Xian formation. When he turned around, he realized that Chu Luiyue was still staring at the chessboard in front of him motionlessly. The previous few times, she solved the Xian formation after Si Ting passed. Everyone was shocked and doubtful at the beginning, but now, they were used to it. They didn't expect him to be second this time. He was ranked in front of Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue snapped out of his daze. At this moment, Gu Mingzhu also solved the Xian formation, and the chess pieces fell into the chess jar. She glanced at Chu Luiyue and sneered. TSK. The long road reveals the horse's strength. Whether you are really capable or not, you will know in time. Chu Luiyue couldn't be bothered with her sarcastic attitude. He lowered his head and finally started to place his chess pieces. Her movements were very fast and smooth, as if she didn't need to think at all. After a few steps, the Xian formation was solved. Then, without looking at the surprised looks of the people around her, she stood up. Miss Dongfang, can I leave after class? Yes, of course. Tomorrow is a holiday, so you can go home earlier today. Dongfang Qing could also tell that something was wrong with Chu Luiyue, so he quickly agreed. Chu Luiyue thanked him and left. Gu Mingzhu said coldly. What is there to be proud of? Si Ting raised his eyes to take a look, but all he saw was the corner of her clothes fluttering away. What is wrong with her? In his impression, Chu Luiyue was always calm and composed, as if nothing could shake her. To be able to cut ties with the Chu family so easily and establish her own family, Chu Luiyue was definitely more powerful than she looked. This was the first time he saw her lose her composure. Si Ting turned around and looked at the chessboard that was already set up. He frowned slightly. If he remembered correctly, Chu Luiyue seemed to have only taken one look and placed a chess piece. Tian Lu Academy had a holiday once every 5 days. Chu Luiyue packed up and went home. Chu Ning was not back yet, so Chu Luiyue had dinner by herself and rested in her room. Just as she lay down on the wooden chair, a strange sound came from outside the window. Chu Luiyue looked over and saw a huge white head pushing open the window and peeking in. A pair of icy blue eyes stared straight at her. It was Xue Xue. Chu Luiyue laughed as she looked at it. The window was not big, and its head took up almost half of it. Xue Xue, why are you here? With that, Chu Luiyue walked over. Xue Xue put its paws on her hand and looked at her pitifully. God knows how busy it had been outside these few days. She missed it so much. Come in quickly. Chu Luiyue patted its head and took a step back. Xue Xue was so excited that it wanted to rush in. Suddenly, the sound of a wooden board breaking was heard. It immediately paused, and its expression was a little stiff. Chu Luiyue looked around and saw that the edge of the window had cracked. Her eyes twitched. Stuck. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 117. Xue Xue looked at Chu Luiyue blankly. It didn't know what to do. Its huge head was stuck in the window. It looked very funny. It's already broken anyway. Just come in. Chu Luiyue held her forehead. She waved at it, annoyed and amused at the same time. With Xue Xue's size, it was already difficult for it to come in through the window. In addition, its physical strength was extremely strong. It only needed to move a little to destroy the wooden board. Seeing that Chu Luiyue wasn't angry, Xue Xue was relieved. It jumped into Chu Luiyue's arms. Chu Luiyue caught it and steadied herself with great difficulty. The soft and fluffy body in her arms made Chu Luiyue's originally depressed mood turn for the better. She weighed Xue Xue in her arms and was a little surprised. Xue Xue, you seem to have lost weight. Compared to the first time they met, it seemed to be a little smaller. Xue Xue rubbed against her face affectionately. Chu Luiyue kept moving back from the itch. All right. Xue Xue, stop fooling around. It's ticklish. Xue Xue pestered her for a long time before it stopped. It lay down by her feet obediently. Its tail kept wagging, looking very obedient. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but smile. If others saw this scene, they would probably think that Xue Xue was her magical beast. Thinking of this, Chu Luiyue's mood became a little strange. It was strange. Rong Xiu was Xue Xue's master, but it seemed to be very close to her. From the first time they met until now, Chu Luiyue had an inexplicable sense of closeness to Xue Xue. It was as if she felt from the bottom of her heart that it wouldn't hurt her. Magical beasts were fierce, especially high-level magical beasts like this. They were extremely proud. Logically speaking, they wouldn't be polite to anyone other than their master. But Xue Xue, I haven't seen you recently. Where have you been, Chu Luiyue stroked its fur and asked casually. Xue Xue closed its eyes comfortably. When its master was here, when had it ever enjoyed such pleasure? It wasn't a waste that it had been running around outside for the past few days. Chu Luiyue didn't mind seeing Xue Xue enjoying herself as if she didn't hear him at all. At this moment, with Xue Xue by her side, her loneliness was dispelled. But then again, you and your master are very similar. Xue Xue moved and opened an eye to glance at her. Chu Luiyue tapped its wet and rough nose with a slender, white finger. They all like to barge into other people's houses in the middle of the night. Shue Shue closed her eyes guiltily and rubbed her head against Chu Liyue's palm. Chu Liyue sighed inwardly. His shameless look was even more like, you're back. Chu Ning's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Chu Liyue happily got up to open the door, but Shue Shue was faster than her. With a move of her body, she jumped out of the window again. The crack on the already broken window became even bigger. Chu Liyue looked at her speechlessly. She didn't do anything, so why was Shue Shue so guilty? She opened the door and saw Chu Ning, who she hadn't seen for a few days. At this moment, he was wearing the black armor of the Imperial Guards and looked travel-worn. But the moment he saw Chu Liyue, his tired eyes lit up. You're really back. Chu Liyue blinked and acted spoiled, which was rare of her. The academy is on holiday tomorrow, so I came back directly after class today. I haven't seen you for a few days, misses you very much. Hearing his daughter's words, Chu Ning only felt that the fatigue of the past few days was swept away and he instantly felt relaxed. Father also misses you very much. I've been too busy recently, so I didn't have time to go to the academy to see you. Chu Liyue smiled helplessly. Father, our house is quite close to the academy, so there's no need for you to send me. But you've just taken office recently, so you must have a lot of things to deal with. Looking at you, you haven't rested well these past few days, right? As she spoke, Chu Liyue invited Chu Ning in and poured him a cup of tea. That's right. In addition to taking over the affairs of the Imperial Guards, I also have to deal with the matter of the fourth princess. Previously, the fourth princess met with an accident at the hunting ground and her pearl of essence was shattered. His Majesty was very distressed and has been investigating these past few days. He has already punished dozens of people. Chu Liyue faintly said, oh. Her pearl of essence was shattered, so in the future, won't she be able to cultivate? Isn't that right? This matter caused quite a big blow to the fourth princess, and the palace is also in a state of chaos. She even said that no matter what, she must find the magical beast that injured her. Unfortunately, she was the one who chased the magical beast to the cliff that day. No one else was there at the time and they didn't even know what the magical beast looked like, so how could they find it? The fourth princess should have seen it. If she described it, it should be quite easy to find it, right? The fourth princess didn't see it clearly herself. In addition, she was too frightened to describe it clearly. Finding it is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Chu Ning sighed and did not have much hope in this matter. Chu Liyue did not care. Rongzhen was spoiled and thought that she could do whatever she wanted just because she was the princess born by the empress. Little did she know that all the love in the past would soon disappear after she became a good-for-nothing. Only a lonely and bleak future awaited her. The people in the royal family were the most ruthless. They would immediately abandon someone who was of no use to them. It was a pity that Rongzhen did not seem to realize this. Chu Liyue held his chin with one hand and asked casually, I heard that Chu Xianmin married into the Crown Prince mansion 2 days ago. That's really fast. The Crown Prince and Chu Xianmin finally got what they wanted. Oh, Chu Xianmin might not count. When she was thinking of ways to get close to the Crown Prince, she probably never thought of marrying him as a concubine. So many things had happened in the Imperial City just a few days after she'd entered the academy to cultivate. Chu Ning's expression tensed up. Don't talk about the Crown Prince's matters. It wasn't easy for us to draw a clear line with the Crown Prince. We must not have anything to do with him in the future. This reaction made Chu Liyue feel a little strange. Seeing Chu Ning's cautious and vigilant look, Chu Liyue's mind raced. Something happened to the Crown Prince. Chu Ning did not expect Chu Liyue to be so smart and guessed the main point with one sentence. After thinking for a moment, he knitted his brows and sighed. This matter has too many implications. It's better if you don't ask. Anyway, be careful with your words and actions. After being called over by Emperor Jiawen and learning about the matter, he was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Luckily, they had already cut ties with the Chu family and annulled their marriage agreement with the crown prince first. If not, even the father and daughter would be implicated. In the past, he hated Rongjin, but now, he was only thankful. Father, don't worry. I know. As Chu Luo spoke, he was thinking about what the crown prince had done to make Chu Ning react this way. When she came out of the academy today, she did not hear any news. It was obvious that the palace had kept it a secret. However, the crown prince's situation might be precarious. As the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief, Chu Ning was actually a knife in Emperor Jiawen's hand. Now, this knife is hanging over the crown prince's head. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 118. Rongjin did not have an easy time these few days. Killing one another and fighting for power was one of the things that an emperor feared the most. Emperor Jiawen had also taken his throne back then, so he was even more sensitive and suspicious about this matter. Of course, he knew that this was an unavoidable fight in the royal family, but he did not expect Rongjin to be the first to make a move. Back then, the Emperor Emeritus delayed appointing the crown prince, causing Rongjin and his brothers to kill one another. Hence, when it was his turn, he appointed the Empress's eldest son, Rongjin, as the crown prince as he was worried that the same thing would happen again. However, things did not go as he wished, and Rongjin really disappointed him. Emperor Jiawen could not figure it out. Rongjin was the crown prince, and his status was noble. He had an advantage over the others. As long as the others did not rebel, this position would be his in the future. But why couldn't he keep it in? Emperor Jiawen did not publicize this matter and ordered for the news to be sealed. Nobody was to leak it. Then, he ordered Rongjin to reflect on his mistakes in the residence and took away his right to supervise the 6 departments. Rongjin sent the memorials that were sent to Crown Prince Mansion back to the palace overnight and placed them on the table in the Imperial study. Rongjin knew that his father did not trust him anymore. Compared to everything else, this was his greatest loss. If his father still could not trust him in the future, then, Rongjin did not dare to think too much as he knew that he was in the wrong. He could only try his best to admit his mistake and express his attitude in hopes of reducing his father's anger. This was the biggest loss he had suffered ever since he became the crown prince, but he could not take revenge on the initiator. Rongjin felt very aggrieved, but he did not dare to vent. His father must be secretly watching him now, so what could he do? After much thought, he could only lock himself in the study and not come out for 2 days. On the morning of the 3rd day, Chu Xianmin brought soup over as usual. As expected, she could not even enter the door. Chu Xianmin could not keep her face straight. On the first day she married into Crown Prince Mansion, the Crown Prince was summoned to the palace overnight by His Majesty. After he came back, he went straight to the study, and she could not even see him. In the past 3 days, the servants in the residence had said many nasty things. Many people saw that she was not favored, so their attitude was very presumptuous. Today, she had to fight for herself no matter what. However, Chu Xianmin knew that it would not do her any good if she forced her way in. Therefore, she suppressed the humiliation in her heart and spoke to the tightly shut door. Your Highness, Chuanbei snow pear soup is here for you. Drink some when you have time. Don't tire yourself out. In addition, Minmin has a request. After resting for a period of time, Minmin's body has recovered a lot. What do you think about going back to school tomorrow? If she became the crown princess, she would naturally be too lazy to go back. But now that her appearance had been destroyed, this was the only path she could take. As long as she still had power, the crown prince would not go too far with her. Therefore, even if Chu Liyue, whom she hated the most, was in the academy, she had to go back. After she finished speaking, Chu Xianmin waited outside the door anxiously. After some time, she heard Rong Jin's reply. It's fine if you want to return to the academy, but you're not allowed to live in the academy anymore. You have to return to the manor every day. Also, pay attention to your identity at all times. You definitely can't embarrass me. Chu Xianmin felt as if she had been pardoned. Thank you, Your Highness. The next day, Chu Ning left in a hurry early in the morning. Chu Liyue guessed that the crown prince's trouble this time was more serious than expected. Thinking of this, she was in a good mood and did not rest at home. Instead, she walked out of the house and went straight to Jinbao Pavilion. Once her figure appeared in Jinbao Pavilion, a sharp-eyed page boy ran to the back hall to inform Yan Gu. Yan Gu, who was busy counting the goods inside, could not be bothered anymore. He rushed to the front hall, his face full of eagerness and enthusiasm, but he did not lose his respect. Miss Liu, what brings you here? The academy is closed today. I'm here to take a look. Hee, that's great. Take a look and see if there's anything you like. Yan Gu rubbed his hands and looked expectant as if he would immediately give the item to Chu Liyue as long as she said which one she liked. Chu Liyue hurriedly waved her hands. No. Second Master Yan, you're too polite. I haven't used many of the things you gave me previously. I'm here today to ask you for a few people. Yan Gu was puzzled. You want people? What do you intend to do? Chu Liyue's lips curled slightly. Clearing the accounts. Chu Residence, Main Hall. The Great Elder sat high above. There was a stack of account books on the table beside him. In front of him stood a few people who looked like stewards. At this moment, they were all looking down nervously. The room was very quiet. Only the sound of the Great Elder flipping through the account books could be heard. Every time he flipped through a book, the Great Elder's face turned uglier. By the end, his expression had completely darkened. He slammed the account books on the table. What's going on? In this half a year, not only did the shops under the Chu family not make a profit, they even made a loss. What are you doing? The stewards were so frightened that they trembled. One of them wiped the sweat off his forehead and murmured with a bitter expression, "That's right. Great Elder, we have no choice. This year's harvest is not good. We can't get back the rent from the land, and business is not good either. There really isn't much income. And the residence's expenses have always been huge. That's why there's less income and more expenditure, resulting in a huge loss. Weren't there a few shops that were making a profit before? Why aren't there any accounts for those shops?" The Great Elder flipped through the account books in frustration. The stewards looked at each other in dismay, and their voices became even quieter. "Great Elder, have you forgotten? Those shops were bestowed to Chu Ning by the clan head back then. They were all written in his name. After he left the Chu family, he sent people to take back those shops." The Great Elder was shocked. Only now did he remember this matter. Chu Ning was very favored in the Chu family back then. He was almost publicly acknowledged as the next clan head, so he had a lot of assets under his name. After his downfall, although he was in a terrible situation and had those shops taken away, the names on the deeds were still the same. After Chu Ning became the commander of the Imperial Guards, it was naturally not a problem for him to take back those shops. They didn't have the courage to confront the current Chu Ning head-on. The Great Elder was so angry that he almost tore the account books to shreds. If this continued, the Chu family's future would be even worse. "Great Elder, Chu Liyue is here." At this moment, a manservant suddenly ran in with a panicked expression. Everyone thought that they had heard wrongly. Hadn't Chu Luyue severed ties with the Chu family? How dare she come here? The great elder narrowed his eyes. It's really her. Yes, it's her. The manservant wanted to cry but had no tears. She even brought a few people with her. They're right outside the gate right now. She really ate a bear's heart and leopard's guts. The great elder slammed the table and stood up. She actually has the face to come to our Chu family again. I'd like to see what she's up to this time. Even if she knelt down and begged him, he wouldn't be soft-hearted. The manservant panted heavily and spoke with difficulty. Great elder, Chu Luyue said what? She said that she's here to collect her debt today. Love Network provided a better reading experience. Chapter 119. She wants to settle the debt. The first elder was so angry that he laughed. Why would she want to settle the debt? The servant took a step back in fear. She said that you haven't given her the family property that you promised to give her when you signed the separation agreement. Also, she wants to take away the dowry that her mother brought with her today. The first elder's heart skipped a beat. He had almost forgotten about this matter. That day, he was nearly driven mad by Chu Luyue. He didn't even check the amount carefully before signing the agreement. Now that he thought about it, it was a huge sum of money. Just the dowry that Chu Luyue's mother brought with her back then was already extremely generous. If he were to return it all to Chu Luyue, it would be no different from causing a huge loss to the Chu clan. The first elder paced around in frustration. He glanced at the scattered account books on the table, and his mood worsened. The Chu clan was currently struggling to make ends meet. If they were to take out this sum of money, it would only make things worse. How could Chu Luyue be so thick-skinned as to come knocking on our door to ask for it? First elder, you should hurry up and take a look. Chu Luyue said that if they don't get the money today, they won't leave. Right now, they've already blocked the entrance. It's useless. The first elder cursed angrily as he strode out of the room. Could a mere Chu Luyue really tear down the Chu clan? The first elder rushed to the entrance, and when he saw the scene before him, he nearly fainted from anger. Chu Luyue was standing in front of the main entrance, and there were already quite a few people gathered around her to watch the commotion. She was speaking to the people around her with a sorrowful expression. That's right. When I was very young, my mother passed away, leaving only my father and I to rely on each other. I'm sure you all know that back then, my father was injured in order to save the emperor and couldn't continue cultivating. The Chu clan said that we didn't have the energy to take care of my mother's dowry, so they told us to hand it over to Lu Yao for safekeeping. After so many years, my father and I have finally made it. I don't think that the other things are important, but the dowry belongs to my mother. It's the last thing my mother left me. If I don't come back, I won't be able to rest easy. Everyone nodded as they listened. Chu Ning and Chu Luyue were also considered celebrities in the capital. People often talked about them in private, so they more or less knew that Chu Luyue was telling the truth. In fact, everyone knew that the Chu family was doing this because they wanted to seize Chu Luyue's mother's dowry. Although the Chu clan appeared to be wealthy, they were actually very greedy. Yes, yes. This dowry is yours, no one else can touch it. You must come back. Exactly. In any case, the Chu clan is one of the 4 great clans. If they really refuse to return the item to you, wouldn't that be too much? That's true. If the Chu clan really did that, wouldn't they be throwing away their face? The great elder's face turned ashen when he heard this. He shouted angrily, Chu Luyue. What are you doing? Chu Luyue lifted his eyes and glanced at him lazily. Oh, great elder Chu, don't you know what I'm doing here? Previously, you agreed to split the family and said that you would send over the items that belonged to me and my father. However, I waited and waited, but no one came. Not even a shadow of the item was seen. I thought that you probably have a lot of things to do, so you don't have time to deal with these small matters. That's why I specially brought people over this time. Chu Luiyue raised his hand and pointed at the people behind him. These two are the stewards of Jinbao Pavilion. They are the best at checking accounts. In a while, they will help you count the items. There will be no mistakes. These four are the servants of Jinbao Pavilion. They are very strong and can help move the items away. There's no need to trouble your Chu clan. Great Elder Chu, what do you think? The Great Elder was so angry that he couldn't speak. This Chu Luiyue actually planned everything. This time, he brought people to block the door with the intention of taking away all the items. It seemed that if he didn't agree, he would directly rob them. You impudent! This is the Chu clan, not a place where you can behave atrociously. Chu Luiyue replied with a question. How am I impudent? I'm only here to take back what belongs to me and my father. Can't I do that? Or is Great Elder Chu planning to go back on his word? There were many witnesses last time and this time. It's not very good for you to do this, is it? The smile on his face faded a little. Of course I know that this is the Chu clan. If you didn't keep your promise, why would I come here? I'm afraid that if I come here too many times, it will dirty my eyes. Chu Luiyue, how can you say that? Lu Yao, who had rushed over after hearing the news, immediately reprimanded him. A trace of resentment flashed through her eyes. Looking at this face now, he couldn't help but think of his daughter's disfigured appearance and that despicable wedding. Although you have no relationship with the Chu clan now, everyone here is still your elder. Have you lost your manners after leaving the Chu clan? Lu Yao still had a shred of rationality left. She didn't curse out loud. She knew that with so many people watching, it was better to use a soft approach. However, Chu Luiyue didn't fall for her trick. He couldn't even be bothered to brush her off. Lu Yao. It's good that you're here. My mother's dowry is with you. Even if you want to check it, this period of time is enough for you to sort it out. Since I've personally come here today, then return them all to me. Or, are you unwilling to hand it over? In front of so many people, Lu Yao naturally couldn't deny it. She could only force a smile. How is that possible? Not to mention the Chu clan's wealth, even I, Lu Yao, was born in the Lu clan. How could I be interested in your things? That's good. Chu Luiyue interrupted her and took out a list from his sleeve. This is the list of dowry my mother brought with her when she married into the Chu clan. Later, I'll hand it over to Steward Wu and Steward Zhang to check. These are the last things my mother left behind. If even half of it is missing, I won't let this matter rest. As he spoke, Chu Luiyue passed the list to the two people behind him. Lu Yao was dumbfounded. That list was something from more than 10 years ago. How could Chu Luiyue have it? She felt like something was stuck in her throat. Her back was covered in cold sweat. All these years, she had indeed touched those things. She originally thought that Chu Ning and Chu Luiyue would never have a chance to make a name for themselves in this lifetime. Naturally, she planned to take those things for herself. Who would have thought that they would one day make a comeback? Now, she actually wanted to check carefully. What should she do? Chu Luiyue saw her expression. How could he not know what she was planning? He couldn't help but sneer in his heart. If she didn't skin the entire Chu clan alive today, they wouldn't know that she, Chu Luiyue, wasn't someone to be trifled with. Xiao Wen, bring me a chair. Chu Luiyue ordered. A burly youth behind him immediately responded. He quickly walked to the side of the carriage and brought out a red sandalwood chair. He placed it behind Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue sat down casually and leisurely. First Elder Chu, Lu Yao, hurry up. There are so many things, and I only have one day off today. I have to count them quickly. Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 120. If not for the fact that there were so many people watching, First Elder would have rushed over to teach Chu Luiyue a lesson himself. Such an arrogant look really made people fly into a rage. Lu Yao. All these years, you have been in charge of the family's finances. Go and check the list with them. Give them what they deserve and don't touch what they don't deserve. Lu Yao was shocked by this shout. Seeing the anger on First Elder's face, she subconsciously agreed. Yes. First Elder still felt that it wasn't enough. He shouted at the other stewards. And the few of you, go and watch together. We can't make any mistakes in this account. The few of them hurriedly agreed. Lu Yao's body was tense and her footsteps were heavy. However, she knew that she had to do it even if she didn't want to. On the other side, Steward Wu and the other steward had already set up a formation and started to check the items according to the list. A pair of 8 colored glass lamps, 2 sets of white jade December tokens, a pair of gilded horse pots, 2 painted Kong Ho. Lu Yao had no choice but to grit her teeth. Didn't you hear? Go and get the items from the storeroom. The servants responded and hurried over. When they took out the items one by one, the people Chu Luiyue brought over would immediately go forward and take the items. After checking carefully, they would put them back in the carriage. Chu Luiyue smiled. These are the most capable people in Jinbao Pavilion. Although their positions aren't high, they are the best at identifying treasures. They will know whether it's real or fake with one look. Wouldn't it be more convenient for everyone if they checked carefully like this? This sentence shattered the last trace of hope in Lu Yao's heart. She closed her eyes and accepted her fate. Chu Luiyue was going to go against them to the end today. In a tea house not far from the Chu residence, someone saw this scene clearly. His temper is still the same as before. A low laugh came from behind the beaded curtain. Did you get these people from your place? When Yan Gu heard this, he bowed again and said respectfully, Yes, First Master. Madam came to Jinbao Pavilion early this morning and said that she wanted to borrow some people. I didn't expect. At that time, he was still very puzzled. He didn't know why Chu Luiyue needed a steward to look after the accounts. Who would have thought that the steward would come to cause trouble for the Chu family? Yan Gu could be considered to have seen many things, but this was the first time he had seen such a situation. Chu Luiyue wasn't going to collect debts at all. Most importantly, this request was reasonable and couldn't be denied. The Chu clan had many people. If Chu Luiyue came alone, he would definitely be defeated. Therefore, she deliberately found a few people and exposed the matter in front of everyone. This way, the Chu family would have no choice but to do as she said. After all, the Chu family still cared about their reputation in the capital. You did a good job. Hearing the praise in the First Master's tone, Yan Gu was flattered. He had followed the big master for so many years, but he had rarely heard such praise. Today, he had only transferred a few people to Chu Luiyue, and the First Master was so happy. He had really made a big profit. First Master, you flatter me. I really didn't do much in this matter. Everything was Madam's idea. The person behind the beaded curtain seemed to shake his head and smiled. Naturally, only she could think of such an idea, and only she could do it in the most straightforward way. If it were someone else, who would dare to go against the Chu family alone? Yan Gu thought for a while and couldn't help but say, First Master, Madam doesn't seem to be very clear about your identity, and she doesn't know what you have done for her. Do you want to? When it's time for her to know, she will naturally know. You just have to do your own thing well. Yen Gu lowered his head. Yes. In front of the Chu family's main gate, Steward Wu and the steward were still going through the list. This pair of half-moon feather glasses is fake. And this bamboo jade flute is also fake. The people Chu Luyue brought over were very efficient. As they moved the items, they didn't forget to distinguish the real from the fake. They also picked out the fake items and put them aside. Every fake item that was taken out was equivalent to a slap to Lu Yao's face. The Chu family was also embarrassed. Some of them couldn't help but look at Lu Yao with resentment. Who would have thought that Lu Yao, the head of the household, would be so arrogant as to fill her own pockets? If they hadn't checked these items today, they wouldn't have known that Lu Yao had done so much to the Chu family's assets. And these were only the dowry left behind by Chu Liyue's mother. There were so many assets in the residence. Who knew how much more she had embezzled? Sensing these gazes, Lu Yao's face quickly turned pale. Her entire body swayed like a leaf in a storm, about to be blown away at any time. If possible, she really wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. Every minute and every second of standing here was incomparably torturous. Chu Luyue held his chin with one hand and glanced at the fake items that were taken out. He seemed to be smiling. It seems like your family has been doing well all these years. I was wondering why Chu Xianmin was so generous to spend 200,000 silver taels for a random set of jewelry. Red chalcedony items aren't something that ordinary people can afford. Lu Yao wanted to tear Chu Liyue's mouth apart. Chu Liyue clearly set a trap for Mimin, yet she still had the cheek to say it. She even twisted the truth. But before she could speak, she felt the surrounding Chu family members' gazes become even more resentful. Her heart sank. She knew that they had already believed Chu Liyue's words. So many fake items were taken out. How could they still believe her? Even if Chu Liyue didn't say anything, they would probably want to take her life right now. Time passed slowly. Chu Liyue was very relaxed as he sat on the chair and watched. In between, shopkeeper Wu even specially served her tea and exquisite snacks so that she wouldn't starve. Chu Liyue followed all the good advice. Instead of saying that she was here to ask for money, she might as well say that she was here to take her life. It wasn't until noon that the list of dowries was taken care of. After that, Chu Liyue requested to split the assets according to the contract that day and forcefully took away a lot of silver taels from the Chu family. When the silver taels were moved onto the horse carriage, even the strong-willed first elder couldn't help but feel heartache. The few managers looked at it and felt even more heartache when they thought of the messy account books. The surrounding crowd was already stunned when they saw so many treasures. I didn't expect Chu Liyue's mother to bring such a generous dowry when she married into the Chu family. Rumor has it that Chu Liyue and Chu Ning had a hard time in the Chu family. Sometimes, their food and clothes couldn't even compare to the servants. Selling some of these treasures should be enough for them to survive, right? Chu Ning and his wife are deeply in love. I think he's unwilling to sell them. Besides, these things are in someone else's possession. I'm afraid he hasn't seen them before, let alone sell them. That's true. The Chu family really spent a lot of money this time. The horse carriage made several trips and finally took away all the treasures. In front of the door, there were only the fake goods that were kicked out. It was especially awkward. Chu Liyue stood up and lazily rubbed her shoulders. She was really tired after sitting for so long. Alright, that's all for today. First Elder Chu's eyelids twitched. What did she mean? She's coming again. Chu Liyue seemed to have seen through his thoughts and waved her hand casually. Don't worry, I won't be coming again. However, shopkeeper Wu has already taken note of these fake goods. Please make up for it in the future. You can send it to my house or I'll send someone to pick it up. First Elder couldn't hide his anger and looked at Lu Yao. This is what you've done in the past few years as the head of the family. You'll have to fill this hole yourself. Lu Yao's body swayed. Chu Luyue smiled meaningfully. Why are you angry, First Elder Chu? It's just some small things. Even if the Chu family doesn't want to take them, the Lu family's wealth is comparable to that of a country. Isn't this a piece of cake? Don't you think so, Lu Yao? The best reading experience came from the Love Network. Chapter 121. Lu Yao could not say anything. She was just a concubine's daughter in the Lu family and did not have a high status. She thought that their lives would be much better after Chu Xianmin became the crown princess. Who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Chu Luyue turned around. Let's go. First Elder suppressed the anger in his heart. Close the door. When everyone in the Chu family returned to the residence, he took a deep breath and shouted, Go. Inform all the elders in the Chu family. Tell them to come to the main hall. I think it's time to settle the score with the Chu family today. After he finished speaking, he did not forget to look at Lu Yao, who was in a daze. Especially Chu Yen. Get him here as well. Yes. Lu Yao's legs turned to jelly as she knelt on the ground. Her face was as pale as a ghost. At Tianlu Academy, have you heard? Chu Luyue went to the Chu family to cause trouble again yesterday. The entire Chu family is in a mess now. Why did I hear that Chu Luyue only went to take back the things that belonged to her and her father, including her mother's dowry? Logically speaking, this shouldn't be a big deal, right? It's nothing. The Chu family doesn't think so. Do you know how many treasures and silver Chu Luyue took from the Chu family yesterday? She took away a layer of the Chu family's flesh. If you ask me, this Chu Luyue is really ruthless. After all, the Chu family gave birth to her and raised her. Now that she has made a name for herself, she turned her back on them and even took away so many things from the Chu family. The Chu family's status as one of the 4 major families was already precarious. I'm afraid that this is one disaster after another. It's better not to provoke such a person. The students, who had rested for the day, returned to the academy today. They formed groups of 3 to 5 and discussed animatedly. This farce had caused too much of a commotion. It was hard for them not to know. What are you talking about? A crisp female voice rang out, interrupting their whispers. They turned around and saw Mu Hongyu. Seeing that it was her, most of them were fearful. Mu Hongyu's temper was fierce and she had strength. She was really difficult to deal with. Most importantly, she had a powerful background. She was the only daughter of Lord Ping Jiang, the true Princess Yongping. Even though she wasn't a princess, her status was equally noble. Why aren't you saying anything? Weren't you guys talking happily just now? Mu Hongyu stepped forward and swept her eyes over the crowd with interest. Although she was smiling, everyone could hear the threat in her tone. Ha! Hongyu, we were just chatting in private. We didn't say anything. That's right. Mu Hongyu crossed her arms and raised her chin. Her voice was crisp. I heard everything you said just now very clearly. Let me tell you, Chu Luyue is Mu Hongyu's friend. If I hear anyone bad-mouthing her again, don't blame me for being rude. It was quiet all around. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't expect Mu Hongyu to say something like that. Friend. When did she become friends with Chu Luyue? Chu Luyue, who had just walked over, happened to hear what she said. She stopped in her tracks and looked at Mu Hongyu, who was not far away, in surprise. Actually, they had only spoken twice, but Mu Hongyu was willing to stand up for her. Chu Luyue's heart felt like it was being rubbed by something. Hongyu. Mu Hongyu finally saw Chu Luyue behind the crowd. The cold expression on her face faded, and she waved at her with her almond-shaped eyes. Lu Yu. Chu Luyue walked over and didn't seem to notice the awkward atmosphere. She smiled and said, "Why are you standing here? Aren't you about to break through? You should hurry up and cultivate in Joyo Tower." Mu Hongyu snorted. "They're talking bad about you." Chu Luyue shook her head and smiled nonchalantly. "That's nothing. Don't worry about it. I just collected a debt yesterday, and I have a lot of money now. I'll bring you to Phoenix Restaurant for drinks another day. You didn't come the last time, right?" Mu Hongyu got excited at the mention of Phoenix Restaurant. She hurried over to Chu Luyue. "Really? I really like their crystal prawn dumplings. But I can only go there once a month with my allowance." Chu Luyue laughed. It seemed like Mu Hongyu was a foodie. "Of course it's true. I'll treat you every day. But I have to wait until you break through first." "Sure. Oh yes, I found a few more people to form a team for the Magical Beast Tide. It's up to you." The two of them walked away. The rest of the crowd felt bored and also dispersed. "Lu Yu, are you really not angry at what those people said about you just now?" When there was no one around, Mu Hongyu finally couldn't help but ask. Chu Luyue laughed. "What's there to be angry about? Since I dared to do it, I'm not afraid of being criticized. Besides, you saw it yourself. They only dared to talk behind my back. They didn't dare to say a word in front of me. If I had to teach everyone who scolded me a lesson, I would be busy to death. It's not worth it for those people." Mu Hongyu pursed her lips. "The way you talk is very similar to my father. But I'm angry. If anyone makes me unhappy, I'll definitely get back at them." Mu Hongyu had a straightforward personality. She didn't beat around the bush, but she clearly wasn't someone who was willing to suffer losses. Chu Luyue knew that it was useless to persuade her. Besides, she was helping him this time. Thus, he smiled and changed the topic. "You said you found a few more people? Who are they?" Mu Hongyu stretched out her hand. "Besides you and me, there are 3 more spots. Liao Zhongshu and Xin, who have already agreed to join. Both of them aren't weak. One of them ranked 9th and the other 7th in the midterm assessment. They have a good relationship with me. I can trust them. Oh right, there's also Gu Mingfeng. You should know that he's going to fight Chu Xianmin in the finals." Gu Mingfeng. Chu Luyue was a little surprised. She did know a little about this person. She heard that he was a bastard son of the Gu family. His birth mother's status was very low, so he wasn't favored. Even though he got into Tianlu Academy, his status in the Gu family was still very low. On the day of his fight with Chu Xianmin, she didn't have a deep impression of Gu Mingfeng. She only remembered that he was a young man with a feminine appearance and a cold temperament. Yeah. Don't be fooled by his quiet personality. He's really strong. I lost to him last time. It wasn't easy to get him to team up with me this time. He isn't going to team up with Gu Mingzhu. TSK, he doesn't even interact with Gu Mingzhu. How can they team up? Besides, Gu Mingzhu is very arrogant because she's a Xian master. Why would she team up with us? Mu Hongyu didn't think much of Gu Mingzhu. Chu Luyue nodded. Mu Hongyu suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh, right. By the way, do you know that Chu Xianmin is coming back today?" Love Network provided a better reading experience. Chapter 122. Of course, Chu Xianmin would come back. Now that she was in such a miserable state, she could only rely on herself. She just did not know how Chu Xianmin would feel when she came back after the Crown Prince and Lu Yao got into trouble one after another. Minmin, why didn't you invite us to your wedding? We were all waiting to send you off and have a good time. A familiar voice suddenly came from the corner. Chu Luiyue and Mu Hongyu looked at each other and walked a few steps forward. The person who spoke was indeed Lu Fian. At this moment, she was leading a few girls and surrounding a person. That person was wearing a veil. Based on her figure, it seemed to be Chu Xianmin. Yeah. We didn't receive your invitation, and we didn't even know the date. As long as you asked, we would have gone even if we took leave. We're so close. Why did you hide it from us? Lu Fian was actually very angry. She originally planned to go on the day Chu Xianmin married into the Crown Prince mansion so that she could at least meet the Crown Prince. However, Chu Xianmin did not invite them at all. Without an invitation, they could not go at all. After missing such a great opportunity, Lu Fian could not help but suspect that Chu Xianmin did it on purpose to monopolize the Crown Prince. Even though she was still smiling when she spoke, her eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. There was too little time, and I didn't have time to do many things. That's why I neglected you. I didn't do it on purpose. Chu Xianmin clenched her teeth and said. She clearly knew what these people were thinking. They wanted to make a fool out of her. There was no way. Lu Fian purposely smiled. The Crown Prince has always liked you, and now he's even willing to let you go back to school. Minmin, you must be doing well in the Crown Prince mansion, right? Chu Xianmin reluctantly responded. I haven't been here for a few days. I have some things to look for my teacher, so I won't chat with you guys for now. Then, she walked around them and was about to leave. However, when she looked up, she happened to see the person she hated the most. Chu Luiyue. Chu Xianmin's heart suddenly burned with anger, and her fingernails dug deeply into her palms. If looks could kill, Chu Luiyue would have been covered in bruises. Mu Hongyu stared at her alertly. What do you want to do? However, Chu Xianmin did not say anything and walked past Chu Luiyue and Chu Xianmin. That's strange. If it was in the past, she definitely wouldn't have given up so easily. Why did her personality change after marrying into the Crown Prince's residence? Mu Hongyu murmured. Chu Luiyue looked at Chu Xianmin's departing figure thoughtfully and smiled. The best part is yet to come. Let's go. The imperial capital seemed to be as calm as ever, but some people had already sensed that something was wrong. Something seemed to have happened to the Crown Prince. The most obvious point was that the memorials that had previously been sent to the Crown Prince's residence were now sent to the palace. On the surface, Emperor Jiawen said that the Crown Prince was at the stage of breaking through, so he didn't want him to be distracted for the time being. But in reality, anyone with a discerning eye knew that this was taking back the Crown Prince's authority. Moreover, the Crown Prince had been in seclusion recently, refusing all invitations. Obviously, there was something fishy going on. However, the palace had sealed off all news, so the crowd had no way of finding out what exactly happened. They could only secretly guess and choose to wait and see. Some people, who were originally indecisive, started to plan for themselves and secretly took action. Third brother, what exactly is father planning to do? The Crown Prince sent someone to assassinate you, and the evidence is clear. Why did father just ask the Crown Prince to reflect on his mistakes in the residence? Even if he thinks highly of the Crown Prince, he can't just let this matter end so hastily, right? Rong Feng knitted his brows tightly and could not figure it out. After receiving seventh brother's big gift, he and Rong Jiu immediately understood. In the next few days, they worked together to gather more evidence, and Rong Jiu presented all of it to father for him to take a look. The Crown Prince can't deny it. But why is father letting it go so easily? Rong Jiu looked calm. The evidence can indeed deal a heavy blow to the Crown Prince, but it's still too naive to rely on this to bring him down. But we can't just let it end like this, right? Rong Feng anxiously stood up and paced back and forth. Although he didn't really do anything to you, third brother, he can't deny it to seventh brother. This matter is just putting the blame on you, third brother. How can father be so biased towards him? As an emperor, shouldn't he hate such things? Indeed. But you forgot one thing. Even though the crown prince will make father hate him for doing something to me, it's still considered a lucky hit. It's also because of this that his punishment was reduced by a lot. As Rongjiu spoke, he mocked himself. Didn't father keep me in the Imperial city for so long because he wanted to do the same? Now that the crown prince did it for him, it made him feel much more relaxed. Hence, Rongjin's position as the crown prince would not be shaken this time. Rong Feng looked at his expression and suddenly understood something. Third brother, you're talking about father. But since things have already come to this point, isn't it good to take the opportunity to pull the crown prince down? Rongjiu closed his eyes. There's no hurry. The outside world was in turmoil, but Chu Liuyue's days in the academy were very peaceful. Soon, it was the end of August, and the Fiend title was just around the corner. The atmosphere in the academy became lively, and excited discussions could be heard everywhere. The students also became more diligent in their cultivation. Chu Liyue could clearly feel that more people came to Joyo Tower. What she didn't know was that it was very difficult to earn time in Joyo Tower to cultivate, so many people couldn't bear to come every day. They would only come more often when they were about to break through or when something big was about to happen. Chu Liyue originally wanted to break through to become a stage 2 warrior, but he failed again, so he decided not to think about it. When Chu Liyue returned to his residence at night, he saw a familiar figure once he entered the door. No, there were two figures. Rong Xiao and Xue Xue. Chu Liyue was a little surprised. Oh, Your Highness, you're so free today. During this period, Rong Xiao seemed to be very busy. Even though he came a few times in between, he mostly came in the middle of the night and left early in the morning. Sometimes, she didn't even see him. She could only know that he was here when she smelled his faint, cold fragrance. Today was a rare day. Rong Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, took out a box from his arms, and handed it over. Open it and take a look. Chu Liyue took it over and lightly clicked on it. The box opened with a sound. A dagger was lying there quietly. She took off the black scabbard, and a cold light flashed across. This dagger is so sharp. Chu Liyue was pleasantly surprised. She took a closer look and saw that there were two extremely thin, willow leaf-like flying daggers attached to it. With just one look, Chu Liyue could feel the strong suppression contained in it. She looked up in surprise. Those little things of yours are not presentable. I specially prepared a handy one for you. Chu Liyue remembered that Rong Xiao seemed to have said something like that before. She thought that he was joking. She didn't expect that he was serious. Her heart skipped a beat. Your Highness has been leaving early and returning late recently. Is it related to this thing? Rong Xiao leaned closer, his eyes as deep as the starry night. His voice was low and teasing. Then, how will you repay you? How about giving yourself to me? He suddenly paused and looked down at the scabbard in front of his chest. Then I can give myself to you. Digression, today, it's on the shelves. First come, first serve. Everyone accompanied you, all the way. You, was grateful. She didn't say much, only diligently updating. I hope that everyone can support me. Thank you. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 123. Your Highness, it's better for you to make more practical requests. Chu Liyue held on to the scabbard and used a little force, wanting to push him away. Rong Xiao knitted his brows slightly, but he didn't move back. Instead, he moved forward another inch. The two of them were already very close to each other, so they could smell each other's breaths. He openly displayed everything about himself in front of her as if he didn't care about anything else. Chu Liuyue's figure was reflected in his deep eyes. Chu Liyue was dazed for a moment. It was as if, even if she was holding a sharp blade in her hands, he would still come over without a care. Her daze caused her actions to be delayed for a moment. A dim light flashed across Rong Jin's eyes, and his thin lips gently curved up into an ambiguous arc. A faint sigh landed in Chu Liyue's ears. How fierce! In the quiet and dark night, this sigh was like the spring wind that messed up the strings of a zither. It left an echo in Chu Liyue's heart and didn't go away for a long time. Her heart couldn't help but beat violently as if something cunning had torn a hole in the stiff and cold wall in her heart and crawled in. She almost instinctively took a step back and avoided Rong Xiao's eyes. Your Highness, with your distinguished status, countless gentle and virtuous women will go to you as long as you wave your hand. I, Chu Liyue, am fierce, ruthless, and cold-hearted. Your Highness, why are you wasting your time on me? Rong Xiao looked at her, and something seemed to be moving in his eyes. Finally, it turned into a light smile. But I can't see them. I only see you. What can I do? Chu Liyue's heart tingled, and she couldn't help but look at him. The cold moonlight flowed in, and Rong Xiao's face was half lit and half dark. His brows were slightly knitted as if he was very troubled. However, there was a hint of indulgence in his eyes and brows. Chu Liyue didn't know how to respond to such a straightforward confession of love. The two of them quieted down, leaving only an ambiguous atmosphere brewing between them. It was as if even the wind at the end of summer had become gentle. Chu Liyue had heard of confessions before. In her previous life, her status was noble, her strength was extraordinary, and there was no need to talk about her appearance. She had attracted the admiration of many young men. Logically speaking, she shouldn't feel anything if she were to encounter such a scene again. But Rong Xiao's words seemed to have an inexplicable power, which could always easily stir up her mood. Chu Liyue lowered his eyes. Not to mention that Rong Xiao had saved her several times, just the peach blossom hairpin on Rong Xiao's birthday and the exquisite dagger today showed that he had put in a lot of effort. If it were any other woman, they would be moved by what he had done for her. It would be a lie to say that she didn't feel anything. But she had experienced the most unforgettable betrayal in the world. Now, she couldn't easily give all her trust. Faced with Rong Xiao's kindness, her first reaction was not to accept it happily, but to escape. When Rong Xiao approached her, there was a faint trace of fear in her heart. That fear came from the unforgettable pain in the depths of her memory. And she couldn't tell Rong Xiao about this. Moreover, after her rebirth, the most important thing for her was revenge. If she was too close to Rong Xiao, he would definitely be implicated. This was also unfair to Rong Xiao. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind. In just a moment, Chu Liyue looked up at Rong Xiao again. Her expression was calm, her eyes were clear, and the corners of her mouth curved. Your Highness really knows how to joke. Her cold voice shattered the originally ambiguous atmosphere. Rong Xiao stared at her. Both of them were smart people. There were some words that didn't need to be said. They already understood each other's meaning. Chu Liyue waited for Rong Xiao to turn and leave. Any man who had done so much for a woman but was still rejected should not continue, right? Moreover, Rong Xiao was of noble status. However, unexpectedly, Rong Xiao didn't look angry or embarrassed at all, as if he didn't care about Chu Liyue's words. Then, he reached out and grasped the scabbard in front of his chest. Just tell me, do you like this gift? Chu Liyue was stunned. But seeing Rong Xiao's insistence, she could only nod. Your Highness' gift is always good. It's good that you like it. Rongxiu chuckled, then suddenly reached out and pinched her cheek. When I made this, I put in a lot of effort. Today, you have to accompany me to rest as a token of your gratitude. Chu Luiyue was shocked. This, you made it yourself. Because she was too surprised, she didn't have time to complain about Rongxiu pinching her cheek. Seeing the girl in front of him in a daze, Rongxiu's mood finally improved. He turned and walked upstairs. I'm very tired today. I'll tell you tomorrow. Chu Luiyue sneered in her heart. Why would he talk about this tomorrow? Your Highness, if you're willing to talk about it tomorrow, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to listen. Rongxiu stopped and looked back at her. Chu Luiyue also walked forward. When she reached him, she paused and raised her chin slightly. The academy will set off for Wanling Mountain tomorrow. We have to leave early in the morning. So, you'd better tell it to yourself. After saying that, Chu Luiyue didn't look at Rongxiu's expression. She went upstairs, entered her room, and directly locked the door. Rongxiu only reacted when he heard the sound of the door being locked. He looked at the tightly shut door and raised his eyebrows. After a moment, he couldn't help but laugh. She was really as calculative as always. She refused to lose even a little. At this moment, Shui, who had been trying to reduce its presence, suddenly jumped from the first floor to the door of Chu Luiyue's room on the second floor. It scratched the door with its claws. No! No! Its claws were so sharp that it left a few neat scratch marks on the door. Seeing Shui like this, Rongxiu suddenly felt that it was embarrassing. After all, it was a high-level magical beast. How could it lose its composure when faced with such a small matter? How embarrassing was it to scratch here and there? Shui, what are you doing? Rongxiu lowered his voice and asked. Shui turned around to look at him. Its eyes were filled with grievance and indignation. Why else would she go to Wanling Mountain? Of course, it was to hunt magical beasts. Didn't Chu Luiyue like it? Why did she go out to find other wild dogs, no, wild magical beasts? What was she doing with it? This was absolutely unacceptable. Shui couldn't care less about Rongxiu anymore. It turned around and scratched the door again. However, Rongxiu immediately understood from this look. Wait a minute. Tianlu Academy would indeed bring students to Wanling Mountain to train at this time every year. If he remembered correctly, they seemed to be forming their own teams. Then, who was she in the same team as? A crack finally appeared in Rongxiu's calm expression. Chu Luiyue had just entered Tianlu Academy, so she didn't know many people. The people she was most familiar with were probably the dozens of Xian masters. If she was in a team, she would be with these people. Could it be that fellow from the Sea family? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from LoveWeb. Chapter 124. Wanling Mountain was a 2-day journey from the Imperial City. Tianlu Academy's teachers would bring the students who volunteered to go there for training. Some people wanted to hunt fiend beasts that they were satisfied with, while others wanted to use this rare opportunity to improve their skills. Fighting with fiend beasts could increase one's potential and unleash more power. Sometimes, this could even help cultivators break through their own bottlenecks and advance to the next level. Thus, most of the students in the academy had signed up. Early in the morning, the students had already gathered at the first glimmer of light. The older students were fine, but most of the new students could not hide their excitement. I wonder if I can hunt a 4th-grade fiend beast during this fiend tide. Haha. Just you. Don't even think about it. Only the most talented and powerful people can hunt fiend beasts of that level. That might not be the case. Maybe I'll be lucky and encounter one. What's more, the people in our group aren't weak. If we join forces, there's a chance of success. I don't want to think too much. I just want to find a few powerful fiend beasts to fight with. Tisk, when you encounter a high-level fiend beast, you might not even have time to run. Ha 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 ha. Everyone was discussing and teasing each other. They were obviously looking forward to this trip. Outside the lively crowd, a few people were exceptionally quiet. Why isn't Liu here yet? It's almost time to leave. Mu Hongyu looked at the sky and was a little anxious. Yesterday, she had specially told Chu Luiyue twice about today's departure time and that she could not be late. Now that everyone had arrived, why was she still nowhere to be seen? Is she delayed by something? A tall and skinny young man beside Mu Hongyu asked. His skin was very white, and he looked very gentle. He spoke slower than the average person, but he sounded very gentle. This person was Liao Zhongshu. Mu Hongyu shook her head. What could be more important than the fiend tide now? Logically speaking, she shouldn't have forgotten. Chu Luiyue did not seem like an unreliable person. Do you know where she lives? Why don't we go look for her directly? Liao Zhongshu said placatingly. Mu Hongyu covered her face. You forgot that she's a mystic cultivator and lives in a different place from us. These days, she had become much closer to Chu Luiyue, but she had never asked where Chu Luiyue lived. Liao Zhongshu fell silent for a moment. He had really neglected this. What's there to be troubled about? If we really can't do it, the four of us can form a team. We're short of one person. Could it be that we're not allowed to go? A burly, dark-skinned youth beside Liao Zhongshu said in a gruff voice. Sinhu, are you a tiger? Mu Hongyu rolled her eyes at him. Everyone else said there are 5 people, but there are only 4 of us. How much of a loss do we have to suffer? Don't forget that when we reach Wanling Mountain, we fight in small groups. Sinhu trembled from her reprimand. He scratched his head and muttered softly, then we can't find another person. Mu Hongyu glared at him. At this juncture, everyone has already formed a team. Where are we going to find another person? Sinhu finally shut his mouth. Everyone, come forward to collect your items. The few of them turned their heads to take a look. After we collect our items, we really have to set off, Liao Zhongshu said with a frown. Mu Hongyu bit her lip. I'll go and ask Teacher Bai Chen. On the other side, Bai Chen was counting the number of mystic cultivators. After counting, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Where's Chu Luiyue? Why isn't she here? Everyone looked at each other, but no one said anything. Teacher Bai Chen. Do you know where Luyu lives? She's not here yet. I want to go and find her. Mu Hongyu quickly walked forward and said straightforwardly. Bai Chen was shocked. She's really not here yet. Seeing Mu Hongyu's anxious expression, he thought for a moment and immediately looked at Si Ting. Si Ting, you know where she lives, right? Bring Mu Hongyu to take a look. Si Ting nodded. Okay. However, before the two of them could do anything, Gu Mingzhu, who had been watching coldly from the side, could not help but mock them. Teacher Bai Chen, it's almost time. What if you don't make it back in time if you look for her now? Chu Luiyue didn't pay attention to the time, so it's her fault if she misses it. You can't implicate others because of her, right? Mu Hongyu glared at her in annoyance. Gu Mingzhu, what does this have to do with you? We're not in the same team as you. Even if there's a delay, it won't affect you. Why are you so anxious? Gu Mingzhu's face turned red. Am I not telling the truth? Chu Luiyue is in the same team as you. If you want to look for her, go look for her yourself. Don't drag others into it. With that said, she snorted and pursed her lips. I think she's afraid and deliberately didn't go. Mu Hongyu suppressed the anger in her heart. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you now. I'll deal with you when I come back. Si Ting, bring me there first. With that said, the two of them turned to leave. You don't have to look for her. I'm here. A familiar voice rang out. Mu Hongyu looked up in surprise and saw Chu Luyue indeed. Lu Yu. You're finally here. Mu Hongyu quickly walked over to Chu Luyue and could not help but pat her arm. Why are you so late? I thought you were going to stand us up. Chu Luyue put her hands together and begged for mercy. I'm sorry. Something happened and I was delayed. Is there still time? Of course there's still time. Mu Hongyu glanced at Gu Mingzhu and deliberately raised her voice. Some people can't wait for you not to come, so that they won't be suppressed again. Gu Mingzhu wanted to argue, but when she saw Si Ting next to her, she suppressed her anger and turned her head away angrily. Lu Yu, you almost couldn't make it. Bai Chen shook his head, but he could not bear to scold her, so he waved at her. Hurry up and go back. It will be your turn soon. Thank you, Teacher Bai Chen. After Chu Luyue finished speaking, she and Mu Hongyu went back to meet the others. Mu Hongyu poked her and said in a low voice, Hey, why are you here? Hey, what's wrong with you today? Why are you so late? Chu Luyue coughed. It's just a small matter. It's already settled. Yes, it was just that Prince Li and Shuashua pestered her for most of the night. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 125. This pair of master and servant, one human and one beast, had the same temperament. After knowing that she was going to Wanling Mountain today, they started to cause a ruckus. If she had not stopped it in time, the door would have been smashed by Shueshue's claws. Shueshue seemed to be very dissatisfied with this matter and threw a tantrum. Chu Luyue spent a lot of effort to pacify it. As for Rongxiu, Chu Luyue's ears heated up, and she closed her eyes. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? Lu Yu, why are your ears red? Mu Hongyu asked curiously. Chu Luyue immediately shook her head. It's nothing. I came in a hurry. Mu Hongyu nodded understandingly and wrinkled her nose. You know that we have to leave early in the morning, so why did you come so late? If you didn't make it, I wouldn't have let you off. Chu Luyue assured her that it would not happen again, so Mu Hongyu was relieved. With Mu Hongyu's introduction, Chu Luyue met Liao Zhongshu, Tsinhu, and Gu Mingfeng. Just as Mu Hongyu had said, these people were all stage 3 warriors, especially Gu Mingfeng. His aura fluctuated, and there were signs of him breaking through. As the team leader, Mu Hongyu queued up to collect the items. This time, Sun Zhongyan was in charge of leading the team. Under him were a few elders and dozens of teachers. When all the teams had gathered, Sun Zhongyan, who was standing at the front, spoke. Students, I believe that everyone has been looking forward to this trip to Wanling Mountain. This time, I'll be the leader. Other than me, Tianlu Academy will send 3 elders to each be in charge of one batch. Under each elder, there will be 10 teachers, and each teacher will be in charge of 3 teams. There's a signal tube in the things I gave you. If you encounter any danger, just pull it. Chu Luyue looked at the thumb-sized black tube in her hand. There were 2 lines at the bottom. Pulling one line means asking the teacher for help. If he was in a life-and-death situation, he would pull both strings. The Academy's elders will immediately locate your location and head over to rescue you. Sun Zhongyan's voice was thick and clear. Is everyone clear? Yes. Sun Zhongyan paused for a moment, his expression turning serious. The Thousand Spirit Mountain Range's terrain is steep. During the demonic beast tide, it's even more dangerous. The slightest carelessness could cost him his life. So, no matter how much you want to hunt a satisfactory magical beast, you must remember that safety comes first. Everyone responded in unison. This student will remember your teachings. Sun Zhongyan nodded in satisfaction. Set off. There were so many people, and none of them could fly. Naturally, they could only walk. Fortunately, the aptitudes of the students of the academy were excellent, and their progress was not slow. In addition, there were many people and the atmosphere was lively. It was a joyous journey. The topic of discussion was obviously related to Wanling Mountain and the magical beast tide. Some of the senior brothers and sisters who had been there would often talk about what had happened during the magical beast tide in the past 1 or 2 years, causing the freshmen to be even more curious. If only I had broken through to become a stage 4 warrior. Mu Hongyu muttered softly as she walked. She had been cultivating diligently during this period of time, and she was even close to breaking through. But for some reason, she was still a little short. Originally, she had planned that if she could successfully break through, her strength would increase greatly. Then, she would be able to choose a better and more satisfactory magical beast during this magical beast tide. But now, it seemed that this was not going to work. Hongyu, you can't rush cultivation. Liao Zhongshu gently reminded her. Of course, I know that. But who doesn't want to break through? Don't you want to? Liao Zhongshu did not argue with her and only shook his head with a smile. Mu Hongyu sighed. Why can't I be like Lu Yu? Although I'm a stage 1 warrior, I have the strength of a stage 3 warrior. I might even be stronger. Chu Luiyue smiled but did not say anything. She actually did not want to. Mu Hongyu looked at Gu Mingfeng again. Oh right, weren't you about to break through previously? Why haven't you done anything yet? Gu Mingfeng, who had been silent all this while, looked indifferent as he lightly said, it's probably not time yet. Chu Luiyue looked at him again and was in deep thought. Gu Mingfeng, doesn't seem to be that simple. A somewhat cold gaze suddenly fell on her body. Chu Liuyue's gaze moved slightly and met Chu Xianmin's gaze that was about to retract. That pair of eyes still had hatred and resentment that had not faded away in time. Chu Xianmin did not expect Chu Luiyue to be so sharp and hurriedly turned her gaze away. This was a rare opportunity that she begged for from the Crown Prince. She had to make good use of it. Chu Luiyue sneered in her heart. Chu Xianmin really did not give up on her evil intentions. Rong Jin did not come this time, which showed that the severity of the matter was far beyond her expectations. She just did not know what the situation in the Imperial city would be like when she returned. After 2 days of trekking, the crowd finally arrived at the foot of Wanling Mountain on the morning of the 3rd day. Looking up, the mountains were undulating. Some were steep while some were beautiful. The entire mountain was covered in lush greenery. It was truly beautiful. Standing here, Chu Luiyue could already feel a subtle aura. Sun Zhongyan was still instructing the students bit by bit. The Fiend title will appear in 2 days. Everyone, get ready to enter the mountain range. Remember, act according to your capabilities. You must not enter Wanling Mountain's hinterland. You must leave Wanling Mountain in 3 days. Yes. At the foot of the mountain and in a different environment, the students' voices were much louder. Every team started to move separately and quickly disappeared into the forest. Let's go too. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes were bright, and she was eager to try. Chu Luiyue looked up. The towering mountain range was as quiet as a sleeping beast, making one feel uneasy. She took a deep breath and suppressed the uneasiness in her heart. She followed Mu Hongyu and the rest into the forest. Wanling Mountain was vast. Chu Luiyue and the rest quickly separated from the others. The surroundings gradually became quiet. Only the sound of their feet stepping on the thick layer of leaves could be heard. The leaves swayed with the wind, and the mottled sunlight shone down. After walking for 2 hours, Mu Hongyu finally could not help but ask, "Master Dongfang, you said that the fiend tidal array is here. When the fiend tidal comes, fiends will appear in the periphery of the mountain range. We've been here for a while, but why haven't we seen a single fiend?" Chu Luiyue was about to speak when she suddenly felt a cold aura. Her expression turned stern as she looked in a certain direction. "Come out. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network." Chapter 126. Mu Hongyu and the rest were shocked, and they hurriedly looked over. However, there was no movement at all. In the quiet forest, everything was very calm. Mu Hongyu couldn't help but ask in a low voice. "Lu Yu, did you sense wrongly? I don't feel the aura of a magical beast." Chu Liuyue's expression didn't change and his eyes were still fixed on that spot. "If you don't come out, don't blame me for being rude." Mu Hongyu and the rest looked at each other. There were only trees around them. There wasn't even a tall bush. How could there be a magic beast hiding here? However, Chu Luiyue didn't look like he was joking. The rest of them subconsciously kept quiet. A moment later, the fallen leaves in front of them suddenly moved. "There's something." Mu Hongyu and the rest immediately became alert. There really was a magical beast here. Puff! What is this? The few of them who were facing a great enemy were all stunned for a moment. "Achoo! It's a little fox." Mu Hongyu blurted out. "No. It's not a fox. It's a blood ferret." Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief. The rest of them were shocked. The rumored most useless third-grade magical beast, blood ferret. Puff! 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 Chu Luiyue nodded. A third-grade magical beast was not considered to be of a particularly low level. However, the blood ferret's body was small and its attack power was not strong. Furthermore, it was too lively and active. It was not suitable to be a hunting magical beast. Such blood ferrets were usually kept as pets by the aristocratic families. Forget it then. The few of them were disappointed. They did not expect that the first demonic beast they encountered after entering Wanling Mountain would be a blood ferret. Chu Luiyue nodded. None of them had any magical beasts, so they came with high hopes. However, blood ferrets were not suitable for hunting. They ignored him and turned around to leave. However, just as Chu Luiyue was about to move, he suddenly stopped and lowered his head to look. At some point in time, the little thing had bitten the hem of her clothes and was looking at her eagerly. Chu Luiyue was silent for a moment. They did not want to hunt the blood ferret, but it seemed like it wanted to go with them. Chu Luiyue bent down and wanted to take it away. However, the little thing seemed to know her intention. It ran to the other side and bit her. The blood ferret was extremely fast. If Chu Luiyue caught it with her bare hands, she would definitely not be able to catch it. Hence, she did not move. "Lu Yu, it seems to like you a lot." Mu Hongyu could not help but say with a curious look on her face. She had only heard of the blood ferret, but she had never seen one before. It looked quite cute. Chu Luiyue also found it strange and said to the little thing, "Don't worry." She said to the blood ferret, "We don't intend to do anything to you. You'd better not follow us." After saying that, the blood ferret blinked blankly. It seemed to take a while before it understood what Chu Luiyue meant. She didn't want it anymore. Tears quickly gathered in the blood ferret's eyes. Bean-sized teardrops fell down. It looked up at Chu Luyue as if it was silently accusing her. Chu Luyue was speechless. Something seemed wrong. Luyu, why don't we bring it along? You don't want it. Can't you just treat it as a pet? Otherwise, it will be lonely and pitiful. Mu Hongyu could not resist such a furry little thing. She could not help but say, why don't we let it follow me? The blood ferret shook its head frantically. Mu Hongyu was a little disappointed. It seems like it only wants to follow you, Chu Luyue thought for a moment. Then be obedient and we will take you with us. The blood ferret hurriedly nodded and jumped up. Like a red bolt of lightning, it scurried onto Chu Luyue's shoulder. It squatted, swept its tail, and nestled on Chu Luyue's shoulder. From afar, it looked like a furry red dumpling. It was light and not heavy at all. Chu Luyue glanced at it, and her lips curved up. Let's go. After that, they continued to walk into the forest. Not long after, they encountered a third-grade fiend, Livid Horse. The Livid Horse was tall and was considered one of the stronger third-grade fiends. Livid horses have a cool temperament and are less aggressive. They usually don't take the initiative to fight people. They are suitable as mounts and not suitable for hunting. Liao Zhongshu said softly. Xinhu was a little tempted at first, but when he heard that, he immediately dispelled the idea. Then let's continue to walk in. Maybe we can find a better one. After saying that, he took the lead and walked forward. However, the Livid Horse did not move aside. It stood in front of them and scratched the ground with its front hooves. It breathed heavily through its nose, and there was obvious hostility in its eyes. Xinhu noticed that something was wrong and frowned. Bookworm, didn't you say that livid horses won't take the initiative to attack people? Why do I feel like it wants to fight with us? Liao Zhongshu was also a little surprised. It can't be, right? I have a few livid horses at home, and they are all very docile. Why is this? Could it be that the fiends in Wanling Mountain are all more ferocious? Before he could finish his sentence, the iron-green horse neighed and charged towards them at high speed. Xinhu was the first to bear the brunt. Ha! He shouted as he bent his legs and raised his muscular arms. His fan-like palms were clenched into fists and suddenly punched. Extreme Fist. He was a third-grade warrior and had a strong physical body. The power of this punch was not to be underestimated. The punch was fierce as it went toward the livid horse. The livid horse raised its front hooves and was about to dodge the punch. Xinhu immediately chased after him and actually dashed under the livid horse. Then, his fist turned into a claw and directly struck the livid horse's abdomen. Rip! The livid horse's abdomen was immediately torn open, and blood splattered everywhere. Xinhu's face was also stained with some dirty blood. However, this made his fighting spirit even stronger. Die! He shouted and was about to take its life. At this moment, the livid horse suddenly raised its leg and kicked Xinhu's chest. Be careful. Mu Hongyu and the rest sensed that something was wrong and immediately went forward to help. The livid horse was attacked from both sides and had no choice but to be distracted. Its attack power was greatly reduced. However, it was still ruthless and kicked Xinhu's back. Poof! Xinhu suffered a heavy blow and fell to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was much paler. Gu Mingfeng stared at the livid horse and saw a hint of red in its eyes. This beast is going crazy. Chu Luyue frowned slightly. The livid horse was gentle by nature. Why would it attack them for no reason? And it was so crazy. At that moment, Mu Hongyu exclaimed, What? Lu Yu. It's dangerous. Chu Luyue looked up and saw that the livid horse had bypassed Mu Hongyu and the rest and was charging toward her. It was targeting her. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 127. Chu Liuyue's eyes darkened as he drew his sword from his waist and stabbed forward. Pfft! That bright and sharp sword pierced the steel azure horse's neck with unparalleled precision. The steel azure horse let out a painful neigh as its eyes turned even crazier. Its body moved and it continued to attack Chu Liuyue without a care for anything else. Chu Liuyue's expression was cold as he flipped his wrist. That long sword suddenly slashed horizontally, forcefully severing the steel azure horse's neck. Thump! The huge, greenish head fell to the ground with a dull thud. The wound that Chu Liuyue had cut was still bleeding profusely. The steel azure horse's eyes were wide open as it twitched twice before it stopped breathing very quickly. Chu Liuyue sheathed her sword and glanced at the corpse on the ground as she thought to herself. She did not know this steel azure horse and she had not done anything overboard. Why would it react like this? Mu Hongyu and the others were stunned for a while before they reacted to what had happened. Leave Liuyue, you're too fast. Mu Hongyu asked in a daze. The few of them had attacked together but were unable to stop the berserk iron azure horse. However, Chu Liuyue had only used one sword strike to kill it. What kind of power did he need to do that? Damn! You were still holding back when you were competing with Chu Qianmin. Xinhu, who had fallen to the ground, finally got up. However, he could not care less about the blood on his face and body. He only stared at Chu Liuyue in disbelief. He had fought the steel azure horse head-on just now and had experienced its power. Even someone as strong as him had suffered under the hooves of the steel azure horse. If Mu Hongyu and the others had not come to help, he might not have been its match. But Chu Liuyue had actually killed it so easily. Chu Liuyue collected her thoughts and looked up at the others. She shrugged. It wanted to kill me, so of course I wouldn't show it any mercy. As for the midterm assessment, didn't teachers say to stop when the time was right? Xinhu stared at Chu Liuyue as he spoke so casually. He could not help but curse in a low voice. Chu Liuyue raised his chin. You can take the origin core. Xinhu's eyes widened. What do you mean? Are you looking down on me? You killed the steel azure horse, so the origin core is naturally yours. I, Xinhu, am not a greedy person. Chu Liuyue rubbed the area between his brows. This Xinhu's personality was a little too straightforward. You were injured by it. If you don't rest well, you won't be able to recover without half a month. Take its origin core and use it to heal. You'll recover faster. The others were stunned by his words. Xinhu was a little tempted, but he still asked doubtfully, really? How do you know all this? Chu Liuyue could not be bothered with him. He turned and walked forward. It's just a third-grade origin core. It's not a good thing. It's fine if you don't want it. But if it affects our entire team, Hongyu won't let you off, let alone me. Mu Hongyu suddenly patted him on the shoulder. Didn't you hear what Liuyue said? Hurry up and go. Xinhu staggered from the pat, but he was not angry at all. Instead, he grinned. Then I'll take the origin core first. When we encounter other magical beasts in the future, I'll be at the front to help you. As he spoke, he walked to the side of the corpse and cut it open with his saber. From the steel azure horse's head, he took out a green pearl the size of a longan. On it, 3 veined patterns could be clearly seen. Xinhu wiped off the blood on it, opened his mouth, and swallowed it. A warm current flowed through his lungs, and the heart-wrenching pain instantly lessened. Xinhu's eyes lit up. It really works. Chu Liuyue did not turn back. The origin cores of magical beasts all contain some poison, and the steel azure horse is no exception. Every hour after that, cut your thumb and let out some blood. Do this 3 times, and the poison and the origin core will naturally be expelled. It would have been better to use the 3 pure leaves, but there doesn't seem to be any here. Let's use this stupid method for now. Her tone was light, as if it was a small matter. However, Mu Hongyu and the others were dumbfounded by what they heard. Chu Luiyue walked a few steps and realized that there was no movement behind her. She finally turned around, but saw that they were all looking at her strangely. What's wrong? Luiyue, how do you know so much? Mu Hongyu asked hesitantly. Gu Mingfeng, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Have you forgotten that she passed all 3 exams to get into the academy? Of course, that included Heaven Doctor. Actually, Mu Hongyu and the others could not be blamed for not remembering. On the day Chu Luiyue had been admitted to the academy, she had immediately participated in the Mystic Master and Warrior midterm examinations. She had placed 2nd and 1st respectively. It was really too dazzling. Not many people had really paid attention to Heaven Doctor. Now that Gu Mingfeng mentioned it, the few of them snapped out of their daze. Damn! I really forgot. Xinhu smacked his head and gave Chu Luiyue a thumbs up. I'm impressed. Chu Luiyue, Xinhu, am really impressed by you now. Chu Luiyue raised her brows slightly. It's just a superficial knowledge. It's nothing much. Let's continue walking in. All right. Mu Hongyu and the others responded in unison. Mu Hongyu had originally been the leader of their team, but unknowingly, they had already treated Chu Luiyue as their backbone. It was as if she could inexplicably convince people just by standing there. Gu Mingfeng followed at the back and narrowed his eyes. Chu Luiyue really only knew a little. The Iron Azure horse was not considered common. Even if ordinary people had seen it, they might not know much about it. But Chu Luiyue actually knew something like how to expel the poison from the Iron Azure horse original elixir. Could it really be such a coincidence? In the mountains, the sky always darkened very quickly. The sun set, the curtain of night hung high, and a bright moon hung in the sky. Why don't we rest here today? Mu Hongyu suggested as they walked to a relatively spacious area. However, Chu Luiyue suddenly pulled her back. Wait. Mu Hongyu looked at her strangely, only to see that Chu Luiyue's expression was vigilant and her brows were tightly furrowed, as if she was very nervous. She could not help but feel nervous as well. What's wrong? After what had happened in the day, she trusted Chu Luiyue the most now. If Chu Luiyue felt that something was wrong, then something was definitely wrong. Chu Luiyue pursed her lips tightly and did not speak. However, fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. What exactly is? Mu Hongyu stopped abruptly in the middle of her sentence. A pair of cold and glossy green eyes appeared in the darkness like 2 balls of will-o'-the-wisp. There's a wolf. Chu Luiyue held her breath. It's not just one. The few of them looked at the same time and saw that next to the pair of green eyes, a second and a third pair had appeared. Very soon, they were surrounded by these cold eyes that looked like will-o'-the-wisp. Greedy, cold and cruel. There was a dead silence in the forest, only endless murderous intent was spreading wildly. Chu Luiyue closed her eyes. It's a pack of wolves. Digression, usually updated at 9 in the morning, mobile users please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 128. Chu Luiyue's eyes darkened. He drew his sword from his waist and stabbed it forward. Poof! That bright and sharp sword accurately pierced the livid horse's neck. The livid horse let out a painful neigh, and its eyes became even crazier. It moved its body and continued to attack Chu Luiyue without caring about anything else. Chu Liuyue's expression was cold as he flipped his wrist. The sword suddenly slashed horizontally and cut off the livid horse's neck. Plop! The livid horse's head fell to the ground with a dull thud. The wound that Chu Liyue cut was still bleeding. The livid horse's eyes were wide open, and it twitched twice before it stopped breathing. Chu Liyue put his sword away and looked at the corpse on the ground. He was deep in thought. She did not know this livid horse, and she did not do anything overboard. Why did it react this way? Mu Hongyu and the rest were stunned for a while before they realized what had happened. Lu Yu. You're too fast. Mu Hongyu asked in a daze. The few of them had attacked the livid horse together, but they could not stop it. However, Chu Liyue killed it with just one slash. How strong must he be to do that? F***ck. You were still holding back when you were competing with Chu Xianmin the other day. Xinhu, who was lying on the ground, got up with much difficulty. He did not care about the blood on his face and body. He stared at Chu Liyue with his eyes wide open in disbelief. He had a taste of the livid horse's abilities when he fought it head-on earlier. Even someone as strong as him had suffered under the livid horse's hooves. If Mu Hongyu and the rest did not help him, he might not have been its match. However, Chu Liyue killed it so easily. Chu Liyue collected his thoughts, looked up at the few of them, and shrugged. It wanted to kill me, so I naturally did not show it any mercy. As for the midterm assessment, didn't the teacher say not to go overboard? Xinhu stared at Chu Liyue with his eyes wide open. He could not help but curse softly. Chu Liyue raised his chin. You can have the pearl of essence. Xinhu's eyes widened. What do you mean? Are you looking down on me? You killed the livid horse, so its pearl of essence is naturally yours. I'm not a greedy person. Chu Liyue rubbed his eyebrows. Xinhu's personality was a little too straightforward. You were injured by it. If you don't recuperate, you'll need at least 10 days to half a month. If you take its origin pill and use your origin to heal, you'll recover faster. Xinhu's words were stunned. Xinhu's words, but he still doubtfully. Really? How do you know this? Chu Liyue could not be bothered with him. He turned around and walked away. A mere third-grade pearl of essence is nothing. It's fine if you don't want it. But if it affects our entire team, Hongyu will be the first to come after you. Mu Hongyu had an epiphany and suddenly patted his shoulder. Didn't you hear what Liu said? Why aren't you going? Xinhu staggered from the slap, but he wasn't angry at all. Instead, he grinned. Then, I'll take the pearl of essence first. When we encounter other fiends, I'll definitely rush to the front to help you. As he spoke, he walked to the corpse and cut it open. From the head of the livid horse, he took out a green pearl the size of a longan fruit. 3 lines were clearly visible on the pearl. Xinhu wiped the blood off the pearl and swallowed it. A warm current passed through his heart, and the heart-wrenching pain from before was instantly alleviated by a lot. Xinhu's eyes lit up. It really works. Chu Liyue didn't turn around and lightly said, she said calmly, the pearl of essence of a fiend is more or less poisonous. The livid horse is no exception. After that, every hour, cut your thumb and let out some blood. Do this 3 times and you will naturally be able to expel the poison from the pill of essence. It would be better to use the 3 pure leaves, but I don't think there are any here. Let's use this stupid method for now. Her tone was light, as if this was just a small matter. However, Mu Hongyu and the rest were all dumbfounded. Chu Liyue walked a few steps and realized that there was no movement behind her. She finally turned around and saw that they were looking at her strangely. What's wrong? Liu, how do you know so much? Mu Hongyu asked hesitantly. Gu Mingfeng, who had been quiet all this while, suddenly spoke. Have you forgotten that she was admitted to the college after passing all 3 examinations? This naturally included the celestial physician. Actually, Mu Hongyu and the others could not be blamed for not remembering. On the day that Chu Luiyue was admitted to the college, she directly participated in the Xian Master and Warrior midterm examinations. She came in 2nd place and 1st place respectively. It was truly too dazzling. Not many people paid attention to the celestial physician. Now that Gu Mingfeng mentioned it, the others suddenly snapped out of their daze. Damn! I really forgot. Tsinhu slapped his head and gave Chu Luiyue a thumbs up. I'm impressed. Chu Luiyue, Tsinhu, really admire you now. Chu Luiyue raised her brows slightly. It's just a superficial knowledge. It's not a big deal. Let's continue walking. Okay. Mu Hongyu and the others responded in unison. Originally, their team leader was Mu Hongyu, but unknowingly, they had already regarded Chu Luiyue as their backbone. It was as if she could inexplicably convince others just by standing there. Gu Mingfeng followed at the back and narrowed his eyes. Chu Luiyue really only knew a superficial knowledge. The livid horse was not considered common. Even if an average person had seen it, they might not know much about it. However, Chu Luiyue actually knew how to expel the poison from the livid horse's pill of origin. Could it really be such a coincidence? The sky in the mountain forest always turned dark very quickly. The sun set and the curtain of night hung up. A bright moon hung in the sky. Shall we rest here first today? Mu Hongyu suggested as they walked to a more spacious area. Chu Luiyue suddenly pulled her back. Wait. Mu Hongyu looked at her strangely and saw Chu Luiyue's vigilant expression. Her brows were tightly knitted as if she was very nervous. She could not help but feel nervous. What's the matter? After what happened during the day, she trusted Chu Luiyue the most now. If Chu Luiyue felt that something was wrong, then something was definitely wrong. Chu Luiyue pursed her lips tightly and did not speak. However, fine beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. What on earth? Mu Hongyu abruptly stopped halfway through her sentence. A pair of cold green eyes appeared in the darkness like 2 balls of will-o'-the-wisps. There's a wolf. Chu Luiyue held her breath. Not just one. The few of them looked over together and saw a 2nd and 3rd pair of green eyes appear one after another beside that pair of green eyes. Soon, they were surrounded by these cold eyes that looked like will-o'-the-wisps. Greedy, cold, cruel. There was a deathly silence in the forest. Only endless killing intent was spreading crazily. Chu Luiyue closed her eyes. It's a pack of wolves. Digression, usually updated at 9 a.m., mobile users please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from AI Network. Chapter 129. This is a 3rd-grade fiend, a red wolf. There must be at least a dozen of them. There are only 5 of us. How can we be their match? Mu Hongyu's face turned pale. They were too unlucky to encounter such danger as soon as they entered Wanling mountain range. If there were only 1 or 2 of them, they might have a chance of winning if they worked together. However, there were so many of them. Without a doubt, they would not be able to defeat them. Liao Zhongshu frowned and muttered, "That's not right." Although red wolves live in packs and are ferocious, they are also very arrogant. They rarely fight with people for no reason. We didn't do anything. Why are they targeting us? Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly recalled that the livid horse seemed to be targeting her, for no reason. Could it be that these red wolves were also targeting her? The 2 parties were in a stalemate. The air seemed to have frozen. What do you want? After a short moment of dead silence, a cold voice broke the strange atmosphere. Chu Luiyue suddenly spoke. At the same time, she took a step forward and stood in front of them. Mu Hongyu pulled her sleeve nervously. Crazy. Those red wolves were so ferocious. If they went over now, they would be courting death. Chu Luiyue patted her gently, indicating that she did not need to worry. However, Mu Hongyu still refused to let go. She was afraid that Chu Luiyue would take things too hard and go over. Luyu, we are no match for these things. Let's think of a way to escape. I'll send a message to the teachers and elders now and ask for their help. As she spoke, Mu Hongyu was about to take out the signal tube. Chu Luiyue's heart sank. She wanted to stop her. Don't. Before she could finish her sentence, Mu Hongyu had already taken out the signal tube. Awoo! A ferocious roar suddenly echoed through the forest. The sudden movement startled Mu Hongyu. She instinctively trembled and did not pull the signal tube in time. However, the surrounding pack of wolves suddenly walked forward. The encirclement became even tighter. Following that, the wolves raised their heads and howled. Ayo, under the moonlight, such a sound was particularly horrifying. Chu Luiyue felt her organs tremble, and she knitted her brows tightly. With so many red-winged wolves, even if each of them bit them once, it would be more than enough for them to endure. They seemed to be angry. Sin, who was also sweating profusely from nervousness. Chu Luiyue tightened his grip on the long sword in his hand. His muscles tightened as he secretly accumulated power. The red wolf is extremely intelligent and sensitive. When Snapper took out the signal tube, they knew that we were going to call for help. To them, this is a provocation. Mu Hongyu immediately panicked. So it was because of her. I'm sorry, now is not the time to talk about this. Chu Luiyue interrupted her with a reassuring tone. Since they've set their sights on us, they won't leave easily. It's only a matter of time before they attack us. Although Mu Hongyu said that, she still blamed herself. Suddenly, the gathered wolves parted in the middle. A snow-white, muscular red-winged wolf slowly walked out from the back of the pack. Its fur was smooth and shiny. When it walked out of the darkness, the moonlight shone on its body, making it look particularly majestic. Most importantly, its eyes were filled with undisguised murderous intent. Chu Luiyue saw it clearly and knew that there was no way for them to negotiate. He immediately reminded them in a low voice. That's the Wolf King. They became even more cautious. The books say that every wolf pack has its own Wolf King. If the Wolf King is killed, then the wolf pack will suffer a huge blow and be defeated. Liao Zhongshu's voice was as soft as a mosquito's. They immediately understood what he meant. To catch bandits, first catch the Wolf King. They had no chance of winning against so many red-winged wolves. Their only hope was to kill the Wolf King as soon as possible. Only then would they have a chance of survival while the wolf pack was in chaos. Leave the Wolf King to me. You guys wait for the right time to strike. Gu Mingfeng suddenly said. Chu Luiyue looked back at him in surprise. He saw that the feminine face was expressionless. Only his clenched jaw showed that he was not as relaxed as he looked. In fact, Gu Mingfeng made this choice because he knew that the situation today was very dangerous. If they were not careful, they would all die here. He was the highest level among them. Naturally, he had to be at the forefront. Mu Hongyu and the others looked at each other. Everyone knew that this was the most dangerous situation. However, if something happened to Gu Mingfeng, the red-winged wolf's most powerful weapon is its sharp claws and teeth. Even if you don't die, you'll be crippled. Remember, don't fight it head-on. I'll support you, Chu Luiyue said in a low voice. He then instructed the others to do their best to stop the other red-winged wolves. As long as they had enough time, they might win. Mu Hongyu bit her lip. Yes, the situation is dangerous. The two of you must be careful. You too. After Chu Luiyue said that, he silently held the dagger in his other hand. The next moment, the Wolf King suddenly moved. It was extremely fast. It drew a snow-white trail in the air and appeared in front of them in the blink of an eye. Gu Mingfeng tapped his toes and flew forward. He raised his sword and slashed at the Wolf King. Almost at the same time, Chu Luiyue followed closely behind. In an instant, the two of them and the Wolf King were in a tripartite confrontation. On the other side, the wolf pack charged at them from all directions. Mu Hongyu and the other two had their backs against each other, forming a small protective circle. They began to fight with the wolf pack. Gu Mingfeng's sword was about to strike, but the Wolf King was faster. With a leap, it jumped onto a tree trunk at the side. It lowered its body and exerted force with its hind legs. Its entire body flew out rapidly. It charged in front of Gu Mingfeng in an instant. Gu Mingfeng was shocked. He immediately raised his sword to block in front of his chest. Whoosh! The sharp claws rubbed against the sword body, making an ear-piercing sound. Gu Mingfeng only felt his body being attacked by a heavy force. His body retreated a few steps uncontrollably. When he finally steadied himself, he quickly looked down and saw that there were already a few clear scratches on the sword body. It was left behind by the Wolf King just now. Its claws were actually so sharp. They were even more dangerous than swords. Gu Mingfeng's expression darkened. This Wolf King's strength was clearly about to break through to rank 4. He was definitely not a match for it just by relying on himself. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, he felt a gust of cold wind coming toward him. It was the Wolf King in hot pursuit and attacking again. He channeled his force and poured it into his sword. However, the Wolf King had already pounced on him at this time. Gu Mingfeng could not block it and directly crashed onto the ground. He wanted to get up and escape, but he could not move at all. He could only be slaughtered by the Wolf King. The Wolf King opened its bloody mouth. Its sharp teeth shone with a cold light as it bit at Gu Mingfeng's neck. A fishy smell hit him in the face. Gu Mingfeng could even feel its teeth pressing against his skin. Gu Mingfeng's blood seemed to have frozen at this moment. However, just as he thought that he was going to die, a biting cold aura suddenly attacked. Behind the Wolf King was Chu Luiyue's sword. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 130. Sensing the danger, the Wolf King could only stop attacking Gu Mingfeng and turn to pounce on Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue's sword slashed across its back and the Wolf King's fur stood on end. It was as hard as steel needles. This sword strike only left an extremely shallow bloodstain on the surface. Chu Luiyue pursed her lips tightly. Although the king of the Crimson Wind Wolves was only a 3rd-grade magical beast, its strength was comparable to a 4th-grade magical beast. The most troublesome part was its fur. However, Chu Luiyue's attack had thoroughly enraged the Wolf King. After exchanging blows with Chu Luiyue, it landed on the ground not far away and was filled with cold murderous intent. A woof! The Wolf King raised its head and howled, then charged toward Chu Luiyue again. Chu Luiyue raised her sword and the man and beast clashed. The Wolf King bit the sword directly. Crack! The long sword broke. In Chu Luiyue's hand, there was only a broken sword left. The Wolf King followed closely. It went straight for Chu Luiyue's neck. Gu Mingfeng's heart suddenly felt empty when he saw this scene. However, Chu Luiyue did not retreat. Instead, she went forward and stabbed the remaining half of the sword into the Wolf King's mouth. The Wolf King let out a howl. The next moment, it seemed to have gone berserk and bit the broken sword into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere. Chu Luiyue felt a few drops of warm liquid on her face. The thick stench of blood was nauseating. She quickly let go of the sword hilt and retreated. The Wolf King went forward again. This time, its speed was even faster than before. Chu Luiyue could not dodge in time. When she looked up, she could already see the Wolf King's sharp teeth. She tilted her head and narrowly avoided the Wolf King's attack. The next moment, a cold murderous intent flashed in her eyes. She bent her knee and raised her leg, then kicked the Wolf King in the stomach. To an ordinary person, this kick might be an extremely serious attack. However, to the Wolf King, whose physical strength was tyrannical, it was nothing. The Wolf King's movement only paused for a moment before it continued to attack. Its sharp claws went for the heart. Once it was hit, it would definitely die. Gu Mingfeng, who had just gotten up with difficulty, saw this scene and his heart was in his mouth. His pupils constricted. At this moment, a ray of light suddenly flashed. The Wolf King only saw a flash in front of its eyes, then felt a cold touch on its front leg. Its actions finally stopped, but it saw Chu Luiyue holding a dagger in front of her chest. Its front claws, which had attacked Chu Luiyue, had been chopped off. A moment later, an intense pain. Taking advantage of this short period of time, Chu Luiyue kicked it out again. The Wolf King lost its front paws and fell heavily to the ground heavily. With dust and blood all over his body, he looked like he was in a sorry state. Ming! Luiyue! Hurry! We can't hold on any longer. Mu Hongyu suddenly shouted. Chu Luiyue glanced sideways and saw that the three of them had already fallen into the pack of wolves. Their figures were almost buried in the wolves. Without hesitation, she quickly went forward and leaped. Her hand rose and the knife fell. The knife pierced through the Wolf King's head. A bloody hole instantly appeared in the Wolf King's head. Its eyeballs protruded and its flesh and blood rolled. It wanted to struggle to get up, but Gu Mingfeng immediately went forward and added another stab to the wound. It twitched a few times before it went completely silent. The wolf pack immediately sensed the Wolf King's death and it was followed by chaos. Not long after, the pack of wolves that had been attacking Mu Hongyu and the other two fled in all directions, disappearing into the dark forest without a trace. The surroundings finally quieted down again. Only the bloodstains on the ground and the Wolf King's corpse proved what had happened here. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that the crisis was over. She took 2 steps back and leaned against a tree, panting heavily. Her current ability was not bad compared to Chu Xianmin's, but it was still very difficult for her to fight with a fiend of the Red Wolf King's level. The short exchange had almost depleted her energy. If she had not used the dagger to block the Wolf King's fatal attack, she might have been. Chu Luiyue lowered her head and looked at the dagger in her hand. The thin and sharp dagger had clear moonlight flowing on it, and there was not a trace of blood. However, she had already experienced its power earlier. This time, she really had to thank Rongxiu. If it were her previous dagger, she definitely would not have been able to kill the Wolf King so easily. Unknowingly, Rongxiu had saved her again. Chu Luiyue looked at the dagger in a daze. Lu Yu. Are you okay? Mu Hongyu rushed over and hurriedly sized up Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue snapped out of her daze and shook her head. I'm fine. Your arm is cut. Mu Hongyu wanted to heave a sigh of relief, but she saw that Chu Luiyue's right arm had a few cuts. Chu Luiyue glanced at it and did not seem to care. I was accidentally scratched by that beast just now. It's nothing. You guys were surrounded by the wolves. How are you? Mu Hongyu was relieved when she saw her calm expression and confident tone. Her expression darkened when she heard Chu Luiyue's question. I'm fine. It's just that Liao Zhongshu was seriously injured when he tried to protect me and Xinhu. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw Liao Zhongshu sitting on the ground with Xinhu supporting him. His face was covered in blood, and there was a shocking wound on his thigh. It seemed that a piece of flesh had been bitten off. She frowned and walked over. How are you? Liao Zhongshu's face was extremely pale, without a trace of blood. I'm fine. How can you be fine? Xinhu was anxious and his eyes were filled with frustration. It's all my fault. The wolves pounced on me just now and I couldn't hold them back. Zhongshu tried to help me. Liao Zhongshu shook his head and said weakly, you were injured. It's normal that you couldn't hold them back. You don't have to blame yourself. We're on the same team, aren't we? His voice became softer and softer, and he looked like he would faint at any moment. Mu Hongyu was so anxious that her eyes turned red. Lu Yu, what should we do? You're a celestial physician. Do you have any ideas? Chu Luiyue bent down and carefully checked his injuries. She thought for a moment and shook her head. He's too badly injured. Even you can't do anything. Mu Hongyu's eyes became hot. She quickly turned her head and wiped the corners of her eyes. Among them, Lu Yu was the most capable. Even she said that she couldn't do it. The corners of Liao Zhongshu's mouth twitched, and he forced a smile. However, his pale face made him even more distressing. I know my own body, I'll help you stop the bleeding first. Xinhu, pull Liao Zhongshu's signal tube and ask the teacher to take him away. He can't continue in this situation. Wanling Mountain's terrain was steep. After the arrival of the magical beasts, it would only become more dangerous. Liao Zhongshu had to go back and recuperate. They looked at each other and fell silent. Xinhu lowered his head and finally took out Liao Zhongshu's signal tube. He pulled it. Poof! A firework suddenly rose into the sky. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 131. Now that things had come to this, everyone decided to rest where they were. Mu Hongyu went to start a fire, and the group sat around it, waiting for their teacher's arrival. Chu Luiyue found some herbs nearby and bandaged Liao Zhongshu's wound, temporarily stopping the bleeding. The others were more or less injured, so she distributed the herbs and let them deal with it themselves. Finally, she applied the remaining herbs to her arm. The pain that had just subsided was stimulated by the herbs, causing her to frown. Someone walked over. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw Gu Mingfeng. Just now. Thank you. The flames leaped and shone on Gu Mingfeng's face, making his expression look even more obscure and unclear. Chu Luiyue shook her head. It's not worth mentioning. That Wolf King is powerful. You and I are no match for it alone. We can only win if we work together. Fortunately, we were lucky. Gu Mingfeng looked at her, many thoughts flashing through his mind. Chu Luiyue said it casually, but in that life and death struggle, the slightest carelessness could have cost them their lives. But Chu Luiyue didn't hesitate at all. Especially, when he thought he was going to die under the Wolf King's fangs. If not for Chu Luiyue's timely appearance, he would be worse than Liao Zhongshu. She saved his life. But she didn't seem to care. Was there really such a selfless person in this world? Chu Luiyue sensed that Gu Mingfeng hadn't left, so she looked up at him and saw the surging emotions in his eyes. Gu Mingfeng frowned and immediately looked away. Chu Luiyue smiled inwardly. She had seen too many scheming people in her previous life. She could see through Gu Mingfeng's thoughts at a glance. Perhaps because of his background, he was a little gloomy and sensitive, and he subconsciously distrusted everyone. Even though they were in the same team, Chu Luiyue believed that Gu Mingfeng had never cared about their lives. The main reason he was willing to deal with the Wolf King was because he wanted to save his own life. I saved you out of convenience. You don't have to take it to heart. In that kind of situation, if it was anyone else, would have taken action. Chu Luiyue said indifferently. Gu Mingfeng was shocked. Only then did she realize that her thoughts had been seen through by Chu Luiyue. He frowned and felt a little uncomfortable. He turned around and planned to leave. After taking a step forward, he stopped. No matter what, I owe you one this time. After he finished speaking, he walked to a spot far away and sat down. He closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. Chu Luiyue looked at him thoughtfully. His impression of him improved a little. Gu Mingfeng was much better than his half-sister, Gu Mingzhu. After waiting for about an hour, teacher Wen Yan, who was leading the team, finally arrived. He looked travel-worn and there were sporadic bloodstains on his body, as if he had just been through a fight. Seeing that Chu Luiyue and the others were injured, he quickly stepped forward and asked, "What's the matter? You were also attacked by magical beasts." Also, Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. How did teacher Wen Yan know? Wen Yan frowned. Lu Fian and the others also encountered the same situation. Of the 5 of them, 3 were severely injured and 2 were lightly injured. I received their distress signal 2 hours ago. I just sent them out and rushed over. Mu Hongyu and the others were also shocked. It's that serious? Mr. Wen Yan nodded solemnly. Indeed. According to them, they were attacked by Cloud Zerge leopards. Cloud Zerge leopards were 3rd-tier magical beasts, and they were powerful and ferocious. It was no wonder Lu Fian and the others were in such a miserable state. Then, they all left and withdrew from this hunt. Yes. The 3 of them are severely injured and no longer have the strength to fight. The remaining 2, Lu Fian and Lu Fian, are also trembling in fear after this battle. As Wen Yan spoke, he walked to Liao Zhongshu's side. After examining him carefully, he heaved a sigh of relief. Even though they are severely injured, it's fortunate that we managed to save them in time. It's not too late to return now. Liao Zhongshu knew that he would only be a burden to everyone if he stayed. Then, I'll have to trouble teacher Wen Yan. Wen Yan sighed. Zhongshu, you're very talented. You could have hunted a suitable magical beast this time. Unfortunately, there was no need to think about it now. Liao Zhongshu's pale lips twitched as he smiled weakly. Teacher Wen Yan, don't worry. I know that my life is more important. It's good that you can think this way. When you recover, there will be more opportunities. It's not worth it for a moment of anger. Wen Yan was relieved as he looked at Chu Luiyue and the others. Then, what about the 4 of you? Sun Hu said in a rough voice. Of course, we have to continue. It would be too cowardly if they retreated just like that. Liao Zhongshu almost lost his life to help them resist the wolf pack. If they also retreated, what was the point? Are you sure? Teacher Wen Yan sighed. Wanling Mountain is very strange this time. Some magical beasts that were originally active in the inner area have appeared in the outer area. They are very aggressive. I contacted the other teachers just now and many teams have encountered the same situation. If we continue to go deeper, I'm afraid it will be dangerous. Sun Hu was stunned. He scratched his head and instinctively looked at Chu Luiyue. Mu Hongyu and Gu Mingfeng also looked over at the same time. Lu Yu, what do you think? Mu Hongyu asked. Teacher Wen Yan was a little surprised. Wasn't the leader of their team Mu Hongyu? Why did it seem like Chu Luiyue was the backbone now? Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and calmly glanced at them. I choose to continue. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 132. Okay. Let's continue. Mu Hongyu seemed to have taken a calming pill. She clenched her fists, and her hesitant expression became firm. Sinhu nodded. Let's continue. We'll follow you. Although Gu Mingfeng didn't say anything, he nodded in agreement. Teacher Wen Yan stared blankly. This team. Was Chu Luiyue the one in charge? She said to continue, but the others didn't have any objections. They seemed to be more confident than before. They had only been in Wanling Mountain for a day. What happened to them? Lu Yu, are you sure? Mr. Wen Yan hesitated for a while and tried to dissuade them. Wanling Mountain is different from before. It's much more dangerous. Even if you really want to hunt magical beasts, I'm afraid now is not the best time. Since we're already here, there's no reason to retreat. Chu Liuyue's tone was very light, but it was steady and had the power to make others feel at ease. Mr. Wen Yan, you can bring Liao Zhongshu back. I know what I'm doing and won't risk my life. If we go back now, we'll be unwilling. Mr. Wen Yan was anxious. Liyue, I know that the few of you aren't weak, and you all have pride in your hearts. But now, you're all injured. Look at the mess. Do you think I don't know how dangerous it was? As he spoke, he suddenly saw the carcass of a fiend lying not far away. His voice stopped abruptly. That was a red wolf. You were attacked by a red wolf. He came in a hurry, so he didn't see the carcass of the red wolf. Mu Hongyu still had lingering fears. Mr. Wen Yan, that's the carcass of the Red Wolf King. We were attacked by a pack of red wolves just now. This sentence made Teacher Wen Yan so shocked that he was speechless. He stepped forward and took a closer look. It was indeed the Wolf King. Although it was covered in dust and blood, its pierced head was obvious. You killed it. Lu Yu and Mingfeng killed him together. Mu Hongyu sighed. The three of us were in charge of stopping the wolf pack. Zhongshu was seriously injured because he tried to save me and Sinhu. Teacher Wen Yan opened his mouth, but he couldn't say anything. Only his heart was filled with shock. Red Peak Wolves. And the Wolf King. Yet, the few of them had actually managed to withstand such a battle. Moreover, other than Liao Zhongshu, the other four seemed to have only suffered some superficial wounds. Although he knew that these people had good rankings in the midterm assessment and could be considered a strong alliance, he did not expect them to be able to reach this step. He was silent for a long time. Chu Luiyue looked at the dancing flames in front of him and said softly, "Don't worry. Teacher Wen Yan, I know you're worried about us. But the path of cultivation had always been like this. If one was blindly greedy for comfort, then one would never be able to become a true expert. What do you think?" Wen Yan was shocked and looked at Chu Luiyue with a complicated expression. You're right. Teacher has been overthinking things. How could one grow if they were afraid of everything? Then, I'll send Zhongshu out first. You guys be careful. If anything goes wrong, immediately ask for help. Chu Luiyue and the others nodded. Teacher, don't worry. After Teacher Wen Yan left with Liao Zhongshu, the few of them decided to take turns to rest. The first one was Chu Luiyue. She was considered to be the one with the lighter injuries among them, so she let the others rest and recover their vitality first. The surroundings fell silent again. Chu Luiyue sat cross-legged and adjusted her breathing. The scene of her battle with the Wolf King today kept replaying in her mind. This body was still too weak. When she returned, she should consider improving her physical strength. Chu Luiyue felt a weight on her shoulder. She turned her head and saw a furry red dumpling squatting on top of her. You're quite smart. You ran quickly when you encountered danger and came back when it was over. Chu Luiyue poked it lightly. The blood ferret's fluffy tail moved, revealing a pair of round eyes that were full of flattery. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows and looked at it. The blood ferret moved closer and carefully extended its 2 claws to bow. It looked wronged and worried, and tears quickly gathered in its eyes. It was as if it would cry if Chu Luiyue was a little more strict. She couldn't blame it for looking like this. Chu Luiyue rubbed her forehead. There was a reason why blood ferrets were known as the weakest third-rank demonic beasts. It didn't have any other abilities, but its escaping speed was top-notch. She didn't really mean to blame it. Was she counting on this little thing to help them defeat the Red Summit Wolves? Forget it. As long as you're happy. Chu Luiyue tapped its head. Realizing that Chu Luiyue wasn't really angry, the little thing relaxed. It intimately moved forward and rubbed its head against her face. Chu Luiyue's lips curved slightly. Nothing happened that night. Early the next morning, they set off again and headed into Wan Spirit Mountain. The forest was lush, and the deeper they went, the quieter it was. However, such an environment made them more vigilant. This place seems a little strange. Mu Hongyu looked around and muttered softly. Chu Luiyue, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped. The others also stopped. Lu Yu, is there a problem? Mu Hongyu asked. After what happened the day before, they were very confident in Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. Let's go back. Go back. But we just arrived here. They were very puzzled, but when they saw Chu Luiyue's serious expression, they didn't say anything else. However, just as they turned around and walked a few steps, a woman suddenly screamed behind them. Help! Digression, yesterday, when I was writing, I fell asleep while sitting down. Later, it will drop at 5 p.m. Please check your mobile phone users. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 133. Although the voice was sharp, Chu Luiyue was very familiar with it. Gu Mingfeng's eyebrows twitched slightly, but he did not say anything. This voice. Why does it sound so familiar? Mu Hongyu wanted to look back, but Chu Luiyue pulled her back. Let's go. Otherwise, we'll be the ones crying for help. Mu Hongyu was shocked and hurriedly followed him. The few of them quickly retreated back the way they came, but the screams did not stop. They were even getting closer. Help! The screams were accompanied by messy footsteps. It was obvious that someone was running for their life. Gu Mingzhu wanted to hunt a satisfactory fiend in Wan Spirit Mountain this time. Her family had suggested that they help her choose one, but she was arrogant and refused to let others help her. She wanted to hunt by herself. Thus, she had been looking forward to this fiend tide for a long time. However, she did not expect to be in danger after just one day in Wan Spirit Mountain. She ran forward in a panic. Her heart was beating so violently that it almost jumped out of her mouth. Actually, she had used up all her energy, but she did not dare to stop. She could only keep running forward. She did not even dare to look back. In a blur, she seemed to see a few figures in the distance. Although she could not see their faces clearly, they were wearing Tianlu Academy's uniform. She was elated and quickly called for help. However, those people did not come over. After hearing her call for help, they started to retreat. Gu Mingzhu became anxious and used the last of her energy to chase after them. Help! I'm also a student of Tianlu Academy. You guys help me. Sinhu could not help but look back when he heard this voice. His eyes immediately widened when he saw what was on the screen. Gu Mingzhu. Sinhu knew Gu Mingzhu, but Gu Mingzhu did not know him. After all, she had always looked down on martial artists. Thus, other than the most famous ones, she had never looked at anyone else. When she heard that Sinhu recognized her, she was elated. I'm Gu Mingzhu. If you help me, I'll thank you properly when I get back. Chu Luiyue suddenly stopped and looked in front of her with a serious expression. Mu Hongyu and the others sensed that something was wrong and stopped as well. Only then did Gu Mingzhu look at them carefully. Other than Sinhu, the other three had their backs facing her. However, this back view was very familiar. She stared at him for a while, then frowned and asked suspiciously, Gu Mingfeng? Gu Mingfeng turned his head and looked at her expressionlessly. Gu Mingzhu showed a look of disgust. It really is you. I'm really unlucky to have met you today. His tone and expression didn't seem like he had seen a family at all. Instead, it seemed like he had seen something dirty. Gu Mingfeng's eyes flashed with coldness. Lu Yu, is there a problem? Mu Hongyu asked in a low voice. Hearing this name, Gu Mingzhu's eyes widened in shock. Wait a minute. No wonder she felt that it was familiar. This back, wasn't it Chu Luiyue? Her expression became even more unsightly. It's disgusting enough to meet Gu Mingfeng, but I didn't expect there to be another one. Sinhu scolded loudly, watch your words. Gu Mingzhu was startled by his thunderous roar, but she felt even more disgusted. Martial artists were so vulgar. Birds of a feather flocked together. Each of these people was more annoying than the last. Chu Luiyue turned around and looked at Gu Mingzhu coldly. We're the unlucky ones to have met you. Gu Mingzhu shuddered under her gaze. What do you mean by that? You clearly heard my call for help, but you pretended not to hear it. You're the ones who, I heard it. Chu Luiyue interrupted her and spoke bluntly. I just don't want to help you. Do you have a problem with that? Gu Mingzhu was so angry that her face turned pale. You. Chu Luiyue. Even if you don't like me, we're still from the same school. How can you leave me in the lurch? You're too selfish. Chu Luiyue sneered. We don't have any relationship with you. Why should we help you? You're too thick-skinned. You, on the other hand, brought us a lot of trouble. I'll remember this. Gu Mingzhu immediately felt guilty. You, what nonsense are you talking about? What trouble did I bring you? I just. She stuttered for a long time, but she couldn't say anything. Mu Hongyu and the others also felt uneasy when they saw her like this. Roar! A roar suddenly came from the forest. Even the ground seemed to tremble. Bang! 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 It was as if something heavy had fallen to the ground. It was so heavy that it made people panic. The few of them turned their heads to look, only to see a huge figure approaching them from the forest in front of them. Wherever it passed, the thick trees were easily deduced. Finally, a huge brown bear the size of a small mountain appeared in front of them. Its entire body was brownish red. Only its neck was golden, and it shone dazzlingly under the sunlight. The most frightening thing was the terrifying aura coming from its body. Sinhu's jaw dropped. This is a 4th-grade golden mane bear. Gu Mingfeng immediately reacted. He looked at Gu Mingzhu and said coldly, Did you provoke it? Gu Mingzhu avoided his gaze and forced herself to say, I just thought that the golden mane bear was powerful and had a high level, so I wanted to give it a try, idiot. Mu Hongyu could not wait to give Gu Mingzhu 2 tight slaps. Who do you think you are? You even dared to provoke a golden mane bear. Where are the rest of your team? Gu Mingzhu's face instantly turned pale. This strange silence immediately made them understand what had happened. They're all dead. Sinhu asked in shock. No. 2 of them got separated from me. I don't know where they went. Gu Mingzhu tried to explain herself, but her voice sounded even more guilty. That meant 2 of them were dead. Gu Mingzhu's team was made up of Xian masters. This kind of loss was tragic. So, after killing 2 Xian masters, you want to drag us down with you? Chu Liuyue's voice was cold. Gu Mingzhu's lips moved, and she turned her head away. You guys came here on your own accord. I didn't force you guys to come. Anyway, we're all in the same boat now. None of us can escape. You guys can do whatever you want. Mu Hongyu was stunned by how shameless Gu Mingzhu was, but she was still clear-headed. She knew that this wasn't the time to argue with Gu Mingzhu. Lu Yu, this golden mane bear is 4th grade. Can we win if we work together? Chu Luyue was so angry that he laughed. Golden mane bears are extremely strong and powerful. It's not easy to deal with them. More importantly, it's a female bear. Everyone was shocked. You mean? Chu Luyue stepped forward and stared at her. What did you do? Why is this female bear chasing after you like this? Gu Mingzhu had no choice but to speak in frustration. I just wanted to take the golden mane bear cub away while it was out looking for food. I was discovered as soon as I came out. I didn't take the golden mane bear cub with me. Adult golden mane bears weren't easy to tame. Newborn golden mane bears were the easiest to tame, so she took the risk. The others agreed as well. They're all going together. You can't blame me for all of their deaths. She just didn't expect to be discovered. Chu Luyue wanted to strangle her to death. Do you know that golden mane bears are extremely protective? If you touch its cub, it will chase after you until it's dead. It doesn't matter if you die, but can you afford to implicate us? Digression. Are you guys the devil if there are more chapters today? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 134. Gu Mingzhu's eyelids twitched when she heard the words, fight to the death. She took a deep breath and forced herself to stand firm. Chu Luyue, I'm not scared. You don't have to make up these lies to scare me. The golden mane bear is powerful, but I didn't bring its cub out. It's still in its cave. This golden mane bear wouldn't, you should know better than us. Chu Liuyue's face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. His cold gaze made Gu Mingzhu even more nervous. She opened her mouth and wanted to explain, but under Chu Liuyue's gaze, she couldn't say a word. In the end, she could only turn her head away awkwardly. Actually, she also felt that something was wrong. After being discovered by the golden mane bear, she knew that it was bad. She immediately threw the cub back and ran away. But the golden mane bear seemed to have set its sights on her and chased her all the way. Wherever she went, it would follow. This was also why she was so nervous when she called for help. She knew that the golden mane bear was behind her and could kill her at any time. She also knew that Chu Liuyue's words were most likely true. Seeing Gu Mingzhu like this, Mu Hongyu and the rest understood everything. They were so angry that their teeth were itching. This was the same as pushing them into the fire pit. If it wasn't for Gu Mingzhu, they wouldn't be in so much trouble. Just as they were confronting each other, the golden mane bear took another step forward. Bang! The ground trembled, causing their hearts to feel uneasy. Chu Luyue looked back. The golden mane bear stood not far from them. Many of the trees around it were broken, and the ground was a mess. It looked down at them from above. Its gray eyes were the size of a fish, cold and cruel. Chu Luyue could clearly feel the anger in its eyes, as well as a bit of disdain as if it was looking at an ant. Usually, magical beasts of this size would win with strength. They were more or less lacking in speed. But the golden mane bear was an exception. With its ability, it would be easy for it to kill Gu Mingzhu. However, Gu Mingzhu had survived until now and had even run so far away. Without a doubt, it wanted to use this method to force Gu Mingzhu to the brink of collapse. Only when she had suffered enough pressure and pain would it be willing to make a move. They just didn't expect that they would be so unlucky to run into it. This time, the golden mane bear was going to take care of them as well. Lu Yu, how are we going to escape? Even Mu Hongyu, who had always been bold, realized the seriousness of the matter and asked nervously. You can't escape. An adult golden mane bear's combat power is almost comparable to a rank 5 warrior. Even if we join forces, we have no chance of winning. Besides, we're all injured now. Then what should we do? Are we going to die here today? Chu Luiyue held his breath. You guys hold it back first, I'll cast the Xian formation. As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. Xian formation. Yes. Now that we are all injured, the power of the Xian formation is even greater. Mu Hongyu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Mingfeng suddenly thought of something. What level are you as a mystic cultivator now? Chu Luiyue paused. Level 2. As soon as he said this, the surroundings suddenly quieted down. Gu Mingzhu seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. She laughed mockingly and asked exaggeratedly, Level 2 Mystic Cultivator? Chu Luiyue, are you kidding me? You want to defeat the golden mane bear with this level? Are you dreaming? Chu Luiyue's expression was calm. She had only been reborn for about 2 months, so the amount of heaven and earth force she could control was limited. For now, she could only cast a level 2 Xian formation. Even Mu Hongyu and the rest looked disappointed. A level 2 mystic cultivator. They really didn't stand a chance. Gu Mingzhu broke through to level 3 a while ago, but she was still not this fellow's match, let alone them. Xinhu, Hongyu, think of a way to hold back the golden mane bear later. Gu Mingfeng, help me cast the Xian formation. Chu Luiyue gave a concise and powerful order. Mu Hongyu and Xinhu looked at each other and nodded. Okay. No matter what, they had to give it a try. Gu Mingfeng frowned slightly. I'm not a mystic cultivator. How can I help you? Chu Luiyue explained, when I cast the Xian formation, you just have to inject your force into it. Gu Mingfeng frowned even more. How can a mystic cultivator use other people's force to cast a Xian formation? If that was really the case, couldn't a mystic cultivator just have to find someone to help during a battle? If their force was incompatible, how could a Xian formation be cast? Not to mention this golden mane bear. Chu Luiyue shook her head. I will solve this problem. As long as you help me with all your strength. Gu Mingfeng saw that she was calm and seemed to have a card up her sleeve. He hesitated for a moment before finally agreeing. I still owe you a favor, so I will definitely do my best. Chu Luiyue looked at him with a faint smile. I hope you can do as you say. Gu Mingfeng's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know why, but he felt that Chu Luiyue seemed to have noticed something. He opened his mouth to say something, but he saw that Chu Luiyue had already held her breath and raised her hands to set up the Xian formation. Mu Hongyu and Xinhu both went forward and blocked the golden mane bear. The golden mane bear lowered its eyes, which were full of mockery and contempt, as if it was mocking them for overestimating their abilities. Xinhu. I'll take the front and you back. Mu Hongyu shouted and jumped up. Okay. Xinhu immediately responded and broke through from another direction. The golden mane bear looked at the lowly human in front of it and mercilessly slapped her with its paw. Mu Hongyu narrowly avoided it and landed on a tree trunk at the side. Even though the paw didn't hit her, the sharp wind from the paw still made Mu Hongyu feel a burning pain on her face. It wasn't hard to imagine how serious the injury would be if the pole really landed on her body. Mu Hongyu blinked her eyes with lingering fear, but she didn't dare to relax. Instead, she provoked the golden mane bear again. Come on. The golden mane bear was furious and slapped her again. Mu Hongyu was agile. With a flash of her shadow, she had already jumped over the golden mane bear's head and landed on the other side. Paw! The tree she was previously on was suddenly split open. On the other side, Tsin, who was also provoking the golden mane bear. The two of them went back and forth, causing the golden mane bear to fly into a rage. The surrounding trees were all swept away. It was a mess. Chu Liuyue's finger gently moved in the air. A silver arc flowed out from her fingertip like water. Soon, a second and third arc appeared. In just a moment, more than 10 silver arcs appeared in front of Chu Liyue. These arcs overlapped with each other and formed a strange pattern. From afar, it looked like an 8 trigrams array. However, it looked a little empty, which was very strange. Gu Mingfeng stood not far from her and stared at her intently. The force in his body surged, and he was ready to take action at any time. However, Chu Liyue stared at the Xian array in front of her and didn't seem to have any intention of asking him to help. Gu Mingfeng frowned and looked at the Xian array. He found it strange. He had seen Xian masters in action before. In his impression, a second-level Xian array didn't take this long to set up. Moreover, Chu Liyue's Xian array looked a little strange. It seemed too empty. Soon, he realized that Chu Liyue didn't stop. Instead, silver arcs flowed out from her fingertips. Her Xian array was still going on. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.